What is it about Star Wars that keeps us enthralled generation after generation? Is it the clash of lightsabers echoing through the galaxy, the gripping battles between good and evil, or is it something deeper, a mystery woven into its very fabric? Star Wars isn't just a story, it's a puzzle filled with unanswered questions, hidden truths, and tantalizing what-ifs that spark our imagination. What if the Force isn't just a tool, but a sentient power with its own agenda? Could Darth Maul have risen above revenge to challenge the galaxy's greatest tyrant? And what secrets do ancient Sith holocrons hold, their knowledge waiting to reshape the balance of the Force? From the untapped potential of Leia Organa to the whispered dangers of the unknown regions, these mysteries take us beyond the surface of Star Wars and into the heart of its endless intrigue. So, whether you're a Jedi in training or a Sith in disguise, join me as I dig into the most compelling questions, theories, and untold stories from a galaxy far, far away. The true nature of the Force. Is the Force itself sentient, subtly guiding events? Or is it a purely neutral cosmic energy manipulated by its users? The Force, described by Jedi and Sith alike, exists as a pervasive, unifying energy that connects all living things. However, its true essence, whether it acts with intention or remains a neutral medium shaped by the wills of its users, remains a question deeply embedded in the galaxy's most profound mysteries. To some, the Force seems to manifest a will of its own, subtly orchestrating events across millennia. To others, it is no more than a tool, a reservoir of power to be drawn upon. Yet, neither perspective fully encapsulates the complexity of its presence. Consider the visions and prophecies that ripple through the Force, as experienced by figures such as Yoda, Anakin Skywalker, and Rey. These glimpses of potential futures suggest that the Force not only observes, but actively communicates. When Yoda enters the ethereal plane of the Force on Dagobah, guided by the disembodied voices of long-dead Jedi, he confronts truths that seem more than chance. Could the Force itself, through these apparitions, be steering its champions towards specific outcomes? If so, how does it choose whom to speak to, and to what end? Equally fascinating is the Force's inexplicable draw toward balance. The Chosen One prophecy, heralding one who would bring balance to the Force, appears to be evidence of an inherent desire for equilibrium. Yet, this idea of balance itself is paradoxical. If balance is to be maintained, why then does the Force allow for immense swings in the galaxy's fate, such as the rise of the Sith or the annihilation of the Jedi? Balance, it seems, is not a static ideal, but a constant state of flux, a tide that rises and falls, reshaping the galaxy with each surge. This leads to the question, does the Force act directly, or are its so-called interventions merely the cumulative result of countless decisions and actions taken by those attuned to it? When Qui-Gon Jinn discovered Anakin Skywalker on Tatooine, he believed it to be the Force's will. Yet, was it the Force guiding Qui-Gon to Anakin, or was it Qui-Gon's own interpretation of events, influenced by his belief in the prophecy? The Force offers no clear answers, only more enigmas. The Sith, for their part, often view the Force not as a guiding entity, but as a source of power to be dominated. Their philosophy holds no reverence for the Force's supposed will, emphasizing instead the bending of this cosmic energy to their desires. Yet even they cannot deny the occasional appearance of phenomena that suggest an intelligence within the Force. Darth Bane, the progenitor of the Rule of Two, often reflected on dreams and visions that shaped his path. Could it be that even in their pursuit of ultimate control, the Sith are pawns to a deeper, unknowable purpose? Then there are the curious cases of beings who, while untrained in the Force, seem guided by it nonetheless. Han Solo, a man without Force sensitivity, displayed an uncanny luck throughout his life, surviving impossible odds time and time again. Some argue this is mere coincidence, but to others, it hints at a broader, less direct influence of the Force. The galaxy's balance may require individuals like Solo, whose actions shape pivotal moments despite their ignorance of the larger tapestry they are part of. The living Force and the cosmic Force provide another lens through which to explore this question. The living Force, tied to the energy of life itself, is immediate, instinctual, and ever-present in the here and now. The cosmic Force, by contrast, transcends time and space, existing beyond the material plane. If the cosmic Force embodies a grander purpose, shaping destinies and orchestrating events, then perhaps the living Force is its instrument, a conduit through which its will is expressed in the physical realm. The Jedi, attuned to the living Force, often find themselves swept into events they later describe as meant to be. Is this the Force guiding them, or their own interpretation of chance as destiny? One of the most compelling examples of the Force's ambiguous nature is its influence on Anakin Skywalker. Anakin's conception, attributed to the manipulation of midi-chlorians by Darth Plagueis or Sidious, suggests the Sith played a role in creating the Chosen One. Yet Anakin's destiny ultimately led to the destruction of the Sith, fulfilling the prophecy of balance. This contradiction begs the question, was Anakin's existence a creation of Sith ambition? Or was their interference itself an act compelled by the Force to achieve its grand design? Another layer to this mystery lies in the Force's apparent indifference to morality. Both light and dark sides arise from the same source, and the Force seems to flow equally through acts of creation and destruction. The Jedi, in their dogmatic adherence to the light, often fail to see the necessity of the dark in maintaining balance. The Sith, meanwhile, exploit the destructive aspect of the Force, blind to its restorative potential. This duality underscores the idea that the Force, if sentient, operates on a plane beyond simple notions of good and evil. It may not seek harmony in the way beings do, but instead exists to ensure the cycle of renewal and decay continues unbroken. Furthermore, the Force's interaction with the physical universe raises questions about its reach and intent. Natural phenomena, such as the vergence in the Force found on Mortis or Dagobah, suggest concentrated nexuses of its power. These locations seem to distort reality, bending time and space in ways that defy explanation. Are these anomalies deliberate constructs? Or are they accidents of cosmic energy converging in specific places? The existence of such sites hints at a deeper complexity, a puzzle the Jedi and Sith alike have barely begun to unravel. The arrival of Rey and her connection to the Force dyad with Kylo Ren offers yet another dimension to this inquiry. The dyad, a phenomenon of unparalleled connection between two individuals, defies traditional understandings of the Force. It suggests a level of intimacy and synchronicity within the Force that points to something deeply intentional. But was this dyad created by the Force? Or was it a product of Palpatine's machinations, an unintended result of his tampering? The answer remains elusive, adding yet another layer to the Force's enigmatic nature. As these threads weave together, it becomes evident that the Force is not easily categorized. It resists being defined as purely sentient or wholly neutral, instead existing in a state of paradox. It is both guiding hand and passive medium, shaping events while remaining subject to the wills of those who wield it. The galaxy, in all its complexity, reflects this duality, an endless dance of light and dark, creation and destruction, freedom and control. Whether the Force guides this dance or merely provides the stage upon which it unfolds is a question that continues to captivate all who study its mysteries. Darth Jar Jar. Could Jar Jar Binks have been a Sith Lord manipulating the galaxy? Jar Jar Binks, the clumsy and often ridiculed Gungan, is one of the most divisive characters in Star Wars. For years, fans dismissed him as comic relief, a tool for levity in the Phantom Menace. But what if Jar Jar wasn't just a bumbling fool? What if, behind his stumbling demeanor, he was something far more sinister? A Sith Lord playing the galaxy like a finely tuned instrument. This is the heart of the infamous Darth Jar Jar theory, one of the most controversial and compelling speculations in the Star Wars fandom. The theory begins with a simple but profound observation. Jar Jar's clumsiness often yields uncanny results. During the Battle of Naboo, his erratic movements inadvertently lead to significant victories against the droid army. Could this be luck, or is it a carefully orchestrated use of the Force? The idea that Jar Jar employs a drunken fist-style combat, masking deliberate intent behind seeming chaos, is one of the cornerstones of the theory. How could a character so inept be so consistently successful unless he was manipulating events with purpose? Then there's his remarkable ascent to power. Despite his apparent lack of political skill or insight, Jar Jar rises to a position of immense influence. In Attack of the Clones, he is the one who proposes granting emergency powers to Chancellor Palpatine, a pivotal moment that sets the stage for the rise of the Empire. Was this the result of naivety, or was it the work of a master manipulator? Palpatine, known for his ability to exploit others, appears to trust Jar Jar implicitly. Why would the galaxy's most cunning Sith take such an interest in an apparent fool? Fans have also pointed to Jar Jar's physical movements as evidence of his Sith nature. In The Phantom Menace, Jar Jar can be seen subtly mimicking the gestures of those around him, a trait some interpret as a form of Jedi or Sith mind trick. Could this explain why others so easily accept his ideas, even when they seem absurd? Is Jar Jar using the Force to influence those around him, bending their will to serve his hidden agenda? Another compelling aspect of the theory is its potential ties to George Lucas's original vision. Lucas has stated that Star Wars is a story that rhymes, with parallels and reversals between trilogies. If the prequels were meant to mirror the originals, could Jar Jar have been intended to play the role of a secret villain, much like Palpatine? The idea of an unassuming figure hiding immense power aligns with the Sith's philosophy of deception. What if Jar Jar was meant to be the prequel's ultimate twist, a revelation that never came to fruition? Skeptics argue that there's little concrete evidence to support Darth Jar Jar, and they point to behind-the-scenes accounts suggesting that Jar Jar's role diminished after the backlash to his character in The Phantom Menace. But even this raises intriguing possibilities. Could Lucas have intended to reveal Jar Jar's true nature, but abandoned the idea due to fan reception? Or could the seeds of this theory have been planted without a definitive payoff, leaving it to the audience to interpret? The implications of Darth Jar Jar's existence would be staggering. If true, it would mean that the galaxy's greatest conflict was orchestrated not by Palpatine alone, but with the help of a Sith so cunning that he fooled even the audience. Jar Jar's apparent incompetence would become his greatest weapon, allowing him to operate unnoticed in plain sight. How many of his actions, seemingly accidental, were actually part of a grander plan? How much of the galaxy's history was shaped by his hidden hand? Even without definitive answers, the Darth Jar Jar theory forces us to reconsider everything we think we know about Star Wars. What if the most despised character in the saga is also its most powerful? And what does it say about the nature of the Sith if deception on this scale could go unnoticed, even by the audience? Whether you believe in Darth Jar Jar or not, the theory adds a layer of complexity and intrigue to a character long dismissed as a joke. Could this be the ultimate trick of the dark side, turning our assumptions against us and hiding the true villain in plain sight? The Sith Eternal Plan. Was the Sith Eternal on Exegol, the true driving force behind galactic events, subtly manipulating the rise and fall of both Jedi and Sith? Beneath the storm-ridden skies of Exegol lies a truth so ancient and insidious that it reframes the history of the galaxy. The Sith Eternal, shrouded in secrecy, emerges not merely as a faction of dark side fanatics, but as a potential architect of the galaxy's most pivotal events. Their sprawling network of acolytes, bound by unswerving loyalty to the Sith ideal, hints at an operation of staggering complexity. If their influence spanned generations, how deeply did their machinations shape the rise and fall of galactic powers, including the Jedi and Sith themselves? The Sith Eternals' home on Exegol serves as a locus of their ambition. This world, hidden in the unknown regions and cloaked by celestial storms, was more than a sanctuary. It was a laboratory of dark side experimentation, a vault of Sith knowledge, and a stage for their ultimate design. The shadow of Exegol stretched far beyond its borders, extending into the political, military, and spiritual currents of the galaxy. The very existence of the Sith Eternal implies a level of forethought and coordination that transcends even the most calculated of Palpatine's plots. Their doctrine revolved around the eternal survival of the Sith, achieved not through the dominance of a single Dark Lord, but through the preservation of the ideology itself. This distinction sets the Sith Eternal apart. They did not merely seek to perpetuate the rule of two. They sought to enshrine the Sith legacy in every facet of galactic life. Could the wars and upheavals that defined the galaxy's history be their carefully orchestrated attempts to destabilize the Jedi Order and pave the way for Sith ascendancy? Palpatine's rise offers a compelling lens through which to explore the Sith Eternal's reach. While the Emperor's cunning and ruthlessness were unparalleled, his unyielding grip on power suggests a foundation laid long before his ascent. The Sith Eternal's role in crafting his identity as Darth Sidious raises questions. Was his manipulation of the Senate, the Clone Wars, and the rise of the Empire purely his own design, or was he acting as the vessel of a larger, more enigmatic force? The Sith Eternal's resources, from their fleet of Star Destroyers to their mastery of Sith alchemy, indicate they were not passive observers. Their involvement in Sidious's cloning experiments alone demonstrates their capacity to shape life and death itself. The question of whether the Sith Eternal influenced the Jedi's downfall adds another layer of intrigue. The Jedi Order, while venerable and resilient, succumbed not just to Palpatine's guile, but to a series of vulnerabilities that seemed almost engineered. Their adherence to dogma, their detachment from emotion, and their reliance on foresight blinded them to the darkness growing in their midst. Was this decay a natural consequence of their philosophy? Or did the Sith Eternal exploit these flaws, subtly steering them toward collapse? If their manipulations reached into the Jedi Temple, how many decisions by the Jedi Council were influenced by whispers of Exegol? The Sith Eternal's ability to endure through galactic upheaval speaks to their profound understanding of time and patience. The Sith Order's apparent annihilation at the end of the Rule of Two was, in truth, a calculated retreat into the shadows. While the galaxy celebrated the death of Darth Sidious at Endor, the Sith Eternal worked tirelessly to ensure that his essence, his will, would not fade. Their loyalty to the Sith ideal surpassed allegiance to any one figure, allowing them to persist through defeats that would have destroyed lesser movements. Exegol became the crucible for this rebirth, a place where the Sith Eternal could forge new schemes far from the prying eyes of the New Republic. What makes their operation so compelling is the scope of their vision. They did not merely rely on Sith Lords to enact their plans. The Sith Eternal cultivated a vast network of agents, zealots, and collaborators embedded across the galaxy. How many wars, alliances, and betrayals can be traced back to their unseen influence? The First Order's emergence, often attributed to the remnants of the Empire, bears the unmistakable mark of the Sith Eternal's hand. Their financing, their strategies, and even their uniforms echo the Sith Eternal's design, suggesting a direct line from the Empire's ashes to Exegol's hidden laboratories. The Sith Eternal's fleet on Exegol, each Star Destroyer equipped with a planet-destroying weapon, represents the culmination of their technological and military ambitions. This fleet, however, was more than a tool of conquest. It symbolized their belief in absolute control, a doctrine of fear that paralleled Palpatine's empire, yet exceeded it in scale. The sheer magnitude of their armada raises questions about the resources and coordination required to build it. Could such a feat be achieved without infiltrating every major galactic institution, from corporate syndicates to planetary governments? The Sith Eternal's operations suggest a level of penetration so thorough that no corner of the galaxy was untouched by their shadow. Their role in Rey's story further underscores their centrality to galactic events. The revelation of her lineage, tied directly to Palpatine, serves as a reminder that the Sith Eternal did not merely react to the galaxy's shifts, but actively shaped them. Rey's existence, her struggle, and her eventual triumph can be seen as the final battle in a war that the Sith Eternal waged over generations. Yet, even as they appeared to lose, their fingerprints remain, leaving open the possibility that their influence continues in ways unseen. The Sith Eternal's allegiance to the dark side transcends traditional notions of Sith philosophy. They do not serve power for its own sake, but to fulfill a vision of permanence, an unbroken lineage of Sith dominance that can adapt to any context. This adaptability is their greatest strength, allowing them to survive and thrive even as the galaxy appears to shift toward light. Whether through the rule of two, the Empire, the First Order, or their hidden operations on Exegol, they remain a constant force, shaping the galaxy's destiny from the shadows. Their ambition forces us to question how much of the galaxy's history is truly organic. Were the Jedi and Sith ever independent actors, or have they always been pieces in a larger game played by the Sith Eternal? If their influence is as pervasive as it appears, the very nature of free will and agency in the galaxy becomes suspect. The Sith Eternal may not just be the architects of Sith survival, but the unseen hand behind every pivotal moment in galactic history. Their legacy, etched in darkness, may be far from over. Darth Plagueis' legacy. Did Darth Plagueis directly influence Anakin Skywalker's creation, or was this a lie propagated by Palpatine to control him? The story of Darth Plagueis the Wise is steeped in mystery and shadow, a tale whispered only in the deepest corners of Sith lore. According to Palpatine, his former master was a Dark Lord of the Sith, so powerful and knowledgeable in the ways of the Force that he could manipulate life itself. But within this tale lies a chilling implication. Could Plagueis have played a direct role in the birth of Anakin Skywalker, the so-called Chosen One? The notion of Anakin's unnatural conception is one of the most enigmatic elements of the prophecy surrounding the Chosen One. Born to Shmi Skywalker on the remote desert world of Tatooine, Anakin had no father, a fact confirmed by Shmi herself and left unchallenged by the Jedi. This absence of a natural father sparked immediate speculation about divine intervention, with some believing Anakin to be the will of the Force made flesh. But what if the truth was darker? What if Anakin's creation was not an act of the Force, but a deliberate manipulation by Plagueis, or his apprentice, Darth Sidious? Plagueis' mastery of midi-chlorians offers the first clue. Through years of experimentation, he sought to unlock the deepest secrets of life and death. The ancient Sith believed that life itself could be controlled, created, or extended through the manipulation of these microscopic entities. Plagueis, by all accounts, came closer to achieving this than any Sith before him. His experiments were not born of altruism, but ambition. He desired to cheat death, to transcend mortality, and to use his knowledge to forge a galaxy eternally ruled by the Sith. But such experiments would inevitably leave ripples in the Force. Anakin's birth occurred during a time when the Force was already out of balance, the light side waning under the resurgence of Sith power. Plagueis' meddlings, if they included creating life through the Force, could have unintentionally or intentionally birthed a vergence in the Force. Did Plagueis intend to create the perfect Sith weapon, only to unwittingly sow the seeds of his own order's destruction? Or was his death at Sidious' hands an abrupt end to his grand design, leaving his experiments incomplete and their outcomes unpredictable? Palpatine's role muddies the waters further. He told Anakin the story of Plagueis with the subtlety of a serpent, insinuating that his master had achieved unparalleled power, but was ultimately betrayed. This tale, whether true or embellished, was carefully tailored to manipulate Anakin's vulnerability. The timing was no coincidence. Palpatine knew Anakin's deepest fear was the loss of those he loved. By suggesting that the power to save lives lay within reach, Palpatine planted the idea that Anakin's destiny and the Sith's knowledge were inextricably linked. But was Palpatine revealing the truth when he hinted that Anakin's creation might have been the work of the Sith? Or was he fabricating a myth to cement his control over the young Jedi? If Anakin believed he owed his very existence to the Sith, it would further ensnare him in Palpatine's web. A being as cunning as Sidious would have no qualms about exploiting such a connection, whether real or imagined. There is also the matter of the Chosen One prophecy. The Jedi interpreted the prophecy as heralding a savior who would bring balance to the Force, yet their understanding was incomplete. The very wording of the prophecy, never fully revealed, left room for ambiguity. Could it be that the prophecy was not an impartial decree of the Force, but an ancient warning about the consequences of tampering with its natural order? If Plagueis or Sidious had indeed created Anakin, they may have inadvertently fulfilled the prophecy in ways they could never have anticipated. By seeking to control the Force, they might have set in motion the very chain of events that would lead to their undoing. The Sith philosophy, with its emphasis on domination and control, would have viewed Anakin's creation as a monumental victory. A vergence in the Force, born of the dark side yet destined to destroy it, represents the ultimate irony. This tension raises questions about the Force itself. If Anakin was indeed created through Sith manipulation, did the Force retaliate by shaping him into the Chosen One? Or was his destiny always intertwined with the Force's larger plan, rendering the Sith nothing more than pawns in a cosmic balance far beyond their comprehension? Shmi Skywalker's perspective is equally compelling. She described her son's conception as miraculous, an event beyond explanation. Her life as a slave on a remote world suggests she was far removed from the political and mystical machinations of the galaxy's great powers. Yet, her quiet strength and unwavering love provided Anakin with the foundation that defined his early years. If the Sith were responsible for Anakin's birth, what did it mean for Shmi's role in this design? Was she chosen for her purity, her resilience, or merely her proximity to the barren reaches of the galaxy where their experiments could remain hidden? Plagueis' death complicates the timeline. If Sidious killed his master before Anakin's birth, as some Sith teachings suggest, then it would appear that Plagueis did not directly create the boy. Yet the Force does not adhere to simple linearity. Plagueis' experiments with life may have unleashed a chain reaction that culminated in Anakin's creation after his death. Alternatively, Sidious, having inherited his master's knowledge, could have completed the work himself. This possibility aligns with Palpatine's penchant for secrecy and long-term planning. If Sidious did create Anakin, his actions would have been the ultimate demonstration of Sith power, reshaping the galaxy by forging its savior and destroyer in one being. However, it is equally possible that Palpatine fabricated the entire connection. Anakin's birth, orchestrated or otherwise, remains one of the galaxy's greatest mysteries, and the Sith thrive on exploiting doubt. By insinuating that Anakin was the product of Sith manipulation, Palpatine could erode his connection to the Jedi and deepen his reliance on the dark side. The truth, in this case, becomes secondary to the impact of the belief itself. The tragedy of Anakin Skywalker lies in his duality. As a being of extraordinary power, his life was a convergence of light and dark, creation and destruction, hope and despair. Whether his existence was the result of Sith ambition or the will of the Force, it remains a testament to the complexity of the galaxy's most enduring struggle. The echoes of Darth Plagueis' experiments, real or imagined, continue to shape the narrative of the Force, leaving an indelible mark on the history of the Sith and the destiny of the Chosen One. The Lost Jedi Temples. How many ancient Jedi temples remain undiscovered, and what secrets might they hold about the origins of the Jedi Order? The ancient Jedi temples stand as silent witnesses to the passage of millennia. These structures, built during the formative years of the Jedi Order, are more than simple places of worship or learning. They are repositories of wisdom, testaments to the Order's philosophies, and perhaps gateways to knowledge that predates even the Jedi themselves. But how many of these temples remain hidden, untouched by time or plunder, and what revelations could they offer about the origins of the Force and those who first sought to wield it? The very existence of temples such as those on Ahch-To and Tython hints at a deeper, more fragmented history than the Jedi Order's official records would suggest. The temple on Ahch-To, for instance, perched atop a windswept island amidst an endless sea, is said to be the site of the first Jedi teachings. Its modest architecture, adorned with carvings of the primeval Jedi Code, contrasts sharply with the sprawling grandeur of later temples like the one on Coruscant. Could this simplicity hint at a time when the Jedi were less an institution and more a loose collection of seekers united by their quest to understand the Force? If so, how many more such early sites might lie buried beneath the sands of forgotten worlds? Tython, with its twin moons Ashla and Bogan symbolizing the light and dark sides of the Force, represents another tantalizing clue. Its surface is dotted with ancient ruins, many of which remain unexplored. Legends speak of massive Force nexuses hidden within these ruins, places where the living Force itself seemed to crystallize into physical form. If such sites exist, they may hold answers to some of the most enduring mysteries. How did the Jedi first discover the Force? Were their teachings entirely their own, or were they guided by an earlier, perhaps now extinct civilization? The potential for undiscovered temples extends far beyond the known worlds. The unknown regions, a vast and treacherous expanse of uncharted space, has long been a source of fascination and fear. Some believe that entire systems, once thriving with ancient Jedi activity, were lost to time during the galaxy's tumultuous cycles of war and migration. Navigating the labyrinthine hyperspace routes of these regions is perilous, but the rewards could be extraordinary. Imagine an uncharted planet where the ruins of a forgotten temple rise like jagged teeth against a blood-red sky, their interiors inscribed with glyphs no living Jedi has ever seen. Such a discovery could rewrite the Order's understanding of its own past. Even within the galaxy's more familiar territories, the possibility of hidden temples remains. Planets like Lothal and Ilum, known to be rich in Force-related phenomena, suggest there are countless worlds where temples could lie concealed. Lothal's ancient temple, accessible only through a deep connection to the Force, revealed secrets that challenged even the most experienced Jedi, such as the existence of the mysterious world between worlds. If a single temple could contain knowledge of time and space so profound, what might others harbor? Could there be temples devoted not to combat or training, but to the study of healing, prophecy, or even the elusive art of manifesting the Force in tangible forms? The secrecy surrounding many of these temples is no accident. During the Great Sith Wars and later during Order 66, the Jedi went to great lengths to hide their most sacred sites. Temples were deliberately erased from maps, their entrances sealed, and their locations committed only to the memories of a few trusted individuals. Over centuries, as those individuals were lost, so too were the temples. The ruins themselves, often imbued with the residual energy of the Force, may even repel intruders through subtle manipulations of perception, making them nearly impossible to find without guidance from the Force itself. What secrets might these lost temples contain? Perhaps they hold holocrons, ancient repositories of Jedi teachings encoded with voices from a bygone age. Or perhaps they guard something more tangible, artifacts of immense power, such as the kyber crystals that powered lightsabers, and later, the Death Star. The temple on Jedha, once a thriving hub of kyber crystal worship, suggests that these sites were not merely spiritual centers but also crucial to the Jedi's technological and military advancements. Could there be other temples that house caches of kyber crystals, forgotten weapons, or even long-lost star charts mapping the galaxy as it was in the earliest days of exploration? There is also the possibility that some temples are not abandoned at all. Hidden deep within forests, caves, or oceans, there may yet be sanctuaries where the Force-sensitive remain in secret, guarding the old ways. These enclaves could harbor techniques and philosophies lost to the mainstream Jedi Order, teachings that diverged from the rigid dogma imposed by the Coruscant Temple. If such places exist, they would offer a glimpse into a more pluralistic vision of the Force, one unbound by the duality of light and dark. The temples might also reveal more about the Jedi's relationship with their opposites, the Sith. The galaxy's history is riddled with instances of Jedi and Sith knowledge intertwining in unexpected ways. Could there be temples where the two traditions overlapped, where teachings of the dark side were studied not as a path to corruption, but as a means to understand the Force's full spectrum? These hybrid sites, if they exist, would be among the most dangerous and sought-after places in the galaxy, their potential to reshape the balance between light and dark incalculable. Yet, the dangers of exploring such temples cannot be understated. The Force, in its most concentrated forms, can be overwhelming. Jedi seekers venturing into these ruins might encounter visions so vivid they lose their grip on reality, trapped in endless cycles of their own fears and desires. Others might awaken guardians left behind by ancient orders, constructs or creatures designed to protect the temples at all costs. These trials, though perilous, could also serve as a form of initiation, testing whether the seeker is worthy of the knowledge they seek. For those who succeed, the rewards could be transformative. A single discovery, a forgotten mantra, a map etched into a temple wall, or a holocron containing the words of the first Jedi could shift the galaxy's understanding of the Force and its place within it. The Jedi Order, fragmented and reformed across eras, has always sought to learn from its past. The lost temples, silent and waiting, may yet hold the key to a future shaped not by war and division but by unity and enlightenment. Palpatine's master plan. Was Order 66 always intended to happen as it did, or were there multiple contingencies for Sith dominance over the galaxy? When Darth Sidious orchestrated the execution of Order 66, it appeared to be the culmination of a flawless plan spanning decades. With one command, the Jedi Order, guardians of peace and justice for millennia, were brought to the brink of extinction. Yet this moment was far from the only path Palpatine had prepared. His mastery of deception and strategy ensured that the fall of the Jedi and the rise of the Sith were inevitable, regardless of any single contingency. Palpatine's genius lay not in his ability to craft a singular plot, but in his creation of overlapping and adaptive strategies. Each thread of his web was designed to converge on the same ultimate goal: unchallenged dominance of the galaxy. Order 66 was merely the most visible piece of this plan, a trap sprung at precisely the right moment. But what if the Jedi had uncovered the chips implanted in the clones before the war reached its crescendo? What if Anakin Skywalker had resisted the pull of the dark side? For Palpatine, such possibilities were not weaknesses, but challenges to be anticipated. The Grand Army of the Republic was, by its very nature, a contingency within a contingency. From the moment the clone troopers were commissioned through the manipulations of Count Dooku and the Kaminoans, Palpatine ensured the army served dual purposes. On the surface, the clones were loyal soldiers of the Republic, a tool to fight the separatists. Beneath this facade, however, They were programmed assassins, each carrying the potential to destroy the Jedi on command. Order 66 was embedded into their very beings, a failsafe Palpatine could activate at will. But the clones were only one piece of his larger puzzle. The war itself was engineered to weaken the Jedi and stretch their resources thin. By positioning the Jedi as generals in a galaxy-wide conflict, Palpatine ensured they would be forced to compromise their ideals. No longer were they the impartial peacekeepers of the Old Republic. They became warriors, entangled in the political machinery of the Republic they served. This erosion of their moral authority sowed doubt among the population, making it far easier for Palpatine to frame their extermination as a necessary act for galactic security. Yet, Palpatine's brilliance extended beyond the manipulation of the Jedi. The separatist movement, led by his apprentice Count Dooku, served as a parallel contingency. The Confederacy of Independent Systems was not merely a tool to provoke war, it was a shadow government, prepared to become the dominant power should the Republic fall prematurely. The Separatist Council, while ultimately disposable in Palpatine's eyes, could have been used to consolidate power under a different banner had the need arisen. Even Anakin Skywalker, central to Palpatine's plans, was far from his only option. Palpatine's seduction of Anakin was a masterstroke, tailored to exploit the young Jedi's fears and desires. Yet, the Sith Master's interest in powerful Force-sensitive individuals extended beyond Anakin. Through Dooku and other agents, Palpatine quietly monitored countless candidates, any of whom could have served as his enforcer if Anakin had failed to turn. The rule of two did not preclude pragmatism, and Palpatine's adaptability ensured he always had a contingency apprentice waiting in the wings. The political arena was another battlefield where Palpatine's contingencies thrived. His rise to Supreme Chancellor was orchestrated through careful manipulation of fear and trust, yet even this position was not irreplaceable. Palpatine's control over the Senate allowed him to maintain the appearance of legitimacy while consolidating his power through emergency measures. Each crisis he manufactured, whether it was the Naboo blockade or the Separatist secession, furthered his agenda. Had his public persona been compromised, Palpatine could have retreated into the shadows, relying on his network of Sith loyalists and operatives to continue his work. Perhaps most chilling of all was Palpatine's use of the Force itself as a contingency. The dark side granted him visions of possible futures, and he used this foresight to shape his plans with surgical precision. He knew when to act decisively and when to wait, allowing his enemies to unknowingly play their roles. Yet, the Force is a double-edged blade, and even the Sith cannot predict its every turn. Palpatine's reliance on the dark side's guidance was tempered by his ability to adapt to unexpected outcomes, a skill that ensured his plans could survive even the most unforeseen events. The culmination of Palpatine's strategies was not merely the execution of Order 66, but the seamless transition to the Galactic Empire. The Republic, weakened by years of war, was ripe for transformation. Palpatine's declaration of the Empire as a necessary measure to maintain peace was met with thunderous applause, a testament to his ability to manipulate the masses. Yet even as he claimed victory, Palpatine prepared for resistance. The Imperial military, with its growing fleet of Star Destroyers and legions of stormtroopers, was built not only to enforce his rule, but to crush any rebellion that might arise. Even the Death Star, often seen as the pinnacle of Palpatine's arrogance, was part of his layered contingencies. While it symbolized the Empire's might, it also served as a deterrent, a weapon designed to instill fear across the galaxy. Had the Death Star been destroyed earlier in its construction or failed to achieve its intended purpose, Palpatine had other weapons, both literal and figurative, to maintain his grip on power. The question of whether Order 66 was always meant to unfold as it did is less important than understanding the depth of Palpatine's planning. The Jedi's fall and the Sith's ascension were not reliant on a single moment but on a cascade of events, each reinforcing the others. Order 66 was a masterstroke, but it was also one of many tools in Palpatine's arsenal, each ready to be deployed as the situation demanded. His ability to weave these contingencies into a cohesive plan is what ultimately ensured the Sith's dominance over the galaxy, even if only for a time. The Grey Jedi myth. Are characters like Qui-Gon Jinn and Ahsoka Tano evidence of a Grey Jedi philosophy existing outside Jedi and Sith dichotomies? The galaxy, for all its light and darkness, has always been a place of shades. Between the rigid dogma of the Jedi and the unrelenting ambition of the Sith lies a space where individuals have carved their own paths, unconstrained by absolutes. Characters like Qui-Gon Jinn and Ahsoka Tano embody this middle ground, often referred to in whispers and speculation as the philosophy of the Grey Jedi. These figures, unaligned with either extreme, challenge the binary nature of the Force and raise questions about whether a third path exists, one that embraces balance in its truest form. Qui-Gon Jinn's defiance of the Jedi Council is one of the clearest indications of a Grey Jedi ethos. A Jedi Master deeply attuned to the living Force, Qui-Gon often disregarded the Council's rigid adherence to tradition and bureaucracy. While the Jedi Order sought to distance itself from emotion and attachment, Qui-Gon embraced the immediate, the organic, and unpredictable nature of the Force. His decision to train Anakin Skywalker, despite the Council's warnings, was not rooted in arrogance but in his belief that the Force itself was guiding him. He saw the prophecy of the Chosen One as more than a line in ancient texts. It was a living truth that demanded action, even at the cost of defying the Order. This willingness to act beyond the boundaries of Jedi orthodoxy hints at a philosophy that values the Force over the institution. Qui-Gon's independence did not stem from a desire to reject the Jedi, but from a deeper understanding of the Force's complexities. He recognized that the Order's increasing entanglement with politics and its detachment from the realities of the galaxy were symptoms of a greater imbalance. His actions, though controversial, were rooted in a desire to restore harmony, even if it meant stepping outside the confines of tradition. Ahsoka Tano's journey further exemplifies the Grey Jedi archetype. Once a devoted Jedi Padawan, Ahsoka's faith in the Order was shattered when she was falsely accused of treason. Her decision to leave the Jedi Order was not born of bitterness, but of disillusionment with the institution's failure to uphold its own ideals. Ahsoka's departure marked a significant moment in her evolution. No longer bound by the expectations of the Jedi, she began to forge her own path, guided by her moral compass and her connection to the Force. Ahsoka's actions during the Clone Wars and beyond reveal a character who embodies the essence of balance. She fights for justice and peace without aligning herself with the Jedi or the Sith, instead acting as a free agent in service of the greater good. Her white lightsabers, devoid of the traditional blue or green hues of the Jedi, symbolize her neutrality. They are a visual declaration that she belongs to neither side, yet remains deeply connected to the Force. Ahsoka's journey highlights the idea that true understanding of the Force may require stepping outside the rigid dichotomies that have defined it for millennia. The concept of the Grey Jedi, however, is not without controversy. The Jedi Code and Sith Code are deeply entrenched philosophies, each claiming to represent the Force's true nature. To the Jedi, the Force is a guiding light, a tool for harmony and protection. To the Sith, it is a source of power, a means to impose one's will. But the existence of individuals who walk a middle path suggests that these interpretations are incomplete. The Force, in its infinite complexity, may not be confined to light and dark, but instead encompass a spectrum that defies such categorization. Legends speak of others who might align with the Grey Jedi philosophy. Jolee Bindo, a Jedi from the Old Republic era, famously rejected the Order's strict codes, choosing instead to live as a hermit and follow his own understanding of the Force. His refusal to see the Force in black and white terms mirrors the journeys of Qui-Gon and Ahsoka, suggesting a recurring theme throughout galactic history. Could it be that these individuals are not outliers but representatives of a deeper truth about the Force itself? The mythology of the Grey Jedi also raises questions about the Force's inherent nature. If the Force seeks balance, as the prophecy of the Chosen One suggests, then figures like Qui-Gon and Ahsoka may be its true instruments. The Jedi and Sith, in their rigid adherence to opposing ideologies, often perpetuate conflict rather than resolve it. A Grey Jedi, unbound by such extremes, may be better positioned to restore equilibrium. This idea challenges the traditional narrative of the Force as a battleground between light and dark, proposing instead a vision of the Force as a dynamic and evolving entity. Critics of the Grey Jedi concept argue that it dilutes the stakes of the Jedi-Sith conflict, reducing it to a matter of perspective. But the actions of characters like Qui-Gon and Ahsoka suggest otherwise. Their struggles are no less profound, their choices no less difficult, because they reject the labels of Jedi and Sith. If anything, their independence makes their journeys more compelling. They are not driven by doctrine, but by a deeply personal connection to the Force, one that transcends the institutions built around it. Ahsoka's confrontation with Darth Vader on Malachor is a powerful example of the Grey Jedi philosophy in action. In facing her former master, Ahsoka does not act out of vengeance or loyalty to the Jedi. Her actions are motivated by compassion and a desire to save Anakin from the darkness that has consumed him. This moment, charged with emotion and ambiguity, captures the essence of what it means to walk the middle path. Ahsoka's refusal to kill Vader, even at great personal cost, demonstrates her belief in redemption and the complexity of the Force. The legacy of Qui-Gon Jinn and Ahsoka Tano, along with others who may fit the Grey Jedi mold, forces us to reconsider the nature of heroism and morality in the Star Wars galaxy. Their stories suggest that the Force cannot be fully understood through the lens of the Jedi or Sith alone. It is a living, breathing entity, shaped by those who wield it, but also shaping them in return. The Grey Jedi myth is not merely a counterpoint to the Jedi and Sith. It is a testament to the infinite possibilities of the Force and the courage required to walk one's own path. The Chosen One prophecy. Could the prophecy have referred not only to Anakin, but also to his lineage as a whole, culminating in Rey's actions? The Chosen One prophecy, a central mystery of Jedi lore, has shaped the galaxy's fate in profound and often catastrophic ways. Whispered through generations, it foretells the arrival of one who would bring balance to the Force. For decades, the Jedi believed Anakin Skywalker was this figure, the one destined to end the eternal struggle between light and dark. But as the dust of the Sith's apparent defeat settled, only to rise again in a new form, questions emerged. Was the prophecy truly fulfilled by Anakin, or does its meaning extend beyond him, encompassing his lineage and culminating in Rey's pivotal role? The prophecy itself is maddeningly vague. Bring balance to the Force is a phrase open to interpretation, its meaning shifting depending on the perspective of those who study it. To the Jedi, balance meant the triumph of light over dark, the elimination of the Sith who corrupted the Force with their greed and hatred. Yet, the Force is not so easily defined by such binaries. Its currents are far more intricate and its balance more delicate. If Anakin fulfilled the prophecy by destroying Darth Sidious and casting down the Sith, why did darkness return with such ferocity in the decades that followed? Anakin's life was undeniably shaped by the prophecy. Conceived without a father, his very existence was seen as evidence of his destined role. Yet, his path was fraught with contradictions. Raised as a Jedi, he was taught to suppress attachment and emotion. Yet his intense love for his mother and Padme Amidala became defining elements of his life. These emotions, when manipulated by Darth Sidious, led to his fall and transformation into Darth Vader. Anakin's choices plunged the galaxy into despair, yet these very choices also set the stage for his redemption and the eventual defeat of the Sith. But could the prophecy's scope extend beyond Anakin's personal story? The Skywalker lineage, marked by extraordinary power and intense conflict, suggests a deeper connection to the prophecy's meaning. Luke Skywalker, Anakin's son, became a new hope for the Jedi Order, restoring the light his father had seemingly extinguished. Leia Organa, Anakin's daughter, carried the strength and resolve of the Skywalker bloodline into the political arena, rallying the galaxy's resistance against tyranny. Both siblings played essential roles in healing the wounds their father's actions had inflicted. The emergence of Rey adds a new dimension to this lineage. Though not a Skywalker by blood, Rey's bond with the Skywalker family is undeniable. Her journey intersects with the remnants of Anakin's legacy at every turn: Luke's teachings, Leia's guidance, and even the lightsaber that once belonged to Anakin himself. The saber, which called out to Rey on Takodana, is a symbol of the Force's will. It chose her, a scavenger from the desert, to carry forward the mantle of the Jedi. Was this merely coincidence, or a sign that the Force itself saw Rey as a continuation of the Skywalker lineage? Rey's connection to the Force dyad with Ben Solo further complicates the prophecy's interpretation. Ben, the son of Leia and grandson of Anakin, embodies the duality of the Skywalker bloodline. His fall to the dark side as Kylo Ren mirrors his grandfather's transformation into Darth Vader, yet his ultimate redemption recalls Anakin's final act of sacrifice. Together, Rey and Ben represent a unity of light and dark, a synthesis that transcends the divisions that have defined the Jedi and Sith for millennia. Could this union be the true fulfillment of the prophecy? A balance achieved not through the destruction of one side, but through their reconciliation. The role of lineage in the prophecy also raises questions about the Force's own intentions. Anakin's creation, possibly the result of Sith manipulation, suggests that even the darkest intentions can give rise to instruments of balance. If the Force used the Skywalker line as a vessel to bring balance, then every generation of this family, from Anakin to Rey, contributed to its fulfillment. Their struggles, triumphs, and sacrifices were not isolated events, but chapters in a larger narrative written by the Force itself. Rey's actions on Exegol provide the clearest evidence of the prophecy's culmination. Facing the resurrected Emperor Palpatine, she channels the strength of all the Jedi who came before her, including Anakin. In that moment, she becomes the embodiment of the Jedi Order's legacy, a force of light strong enough to vanquish the darkness that had plagued the galaxy for generations. Yet, it is her connection to Ben Solo that ultimately defines her victory. Their shared power, rooted in love and understanding, becomes the key to defeating Palpatine once and for all. This moment, however, is not the end of the story. The Force is a cycle, and its balance is not a static state, but an ever-shifting equilibrium. If the prophecy extends beyond Anakin and Rey, it may suggest that balance is not achieved through one act or one individual, but through the ongoing interplay of forces. The Skywalker lineage, with its extraordinary highs and devastating lows, reflects this dynamic nature. Each generation contributes to the Force's balance, shaping its currents in ways that no single individual could achieve alone. The prophecy's ambiguity is both its power and its curse. It offers no clear answers, only questions that challenge those who seek to understand the Force. Did Anakin fulfill the prophecy when he destroyed Sidious, or did his actions merely set the stage for the prophecy's true realization through his descendants? Was Rey's victory the final act of balance, or another step in an endless cycle? The Force does not reveal its secrets easily, and the prophecy remains one of its greatest enigmas. Yet the actions of Anakin, Luke, Leia, Ben, and Rey suggest that the prophecy's true meaning lies not in the triumph of one side over the other, but in the coexistence of light and dark. The Skywalker lineage, with all its contradictions and complexities, embodies this balance. Through their struggles, they demonstrate that the Force is not a simple dichotomy, but a tapestry woven from countless threads, each contributing to the galaxy's destiny. Whether the prophecy is complete or still unfolding, its legacy will continue to shape the galaxy for generations to come. The evolution of Mandalorian culture. How did Mandalore's warrior ethos evolve? And why did the Jedi fear them so deeply during the Mandalorian Jedi Wars? The story of Mandalore's warrior ethos is etched in the scars of countless battles, a testament to a culture forged in the crucible of conflict. Mandalorian history is one of adaptation and survival, a relentless evolution driven by the unforgiving nature of their homeworld and their encounters with the galaxy's most powerful adversaries. Yet, few moments in Mandalorian history resonate as deeply as the Mandalorian Jedi Wars, a period that shaped not only their identity, but also the fear and respect they inspired in the Jedi Order. Mandalore itself is a harsh and unforgiving planet. Its barren deserts, jagged mountains, and sparse resources demanded resilience and ingenuity from its earliest inhabitants. These conditions birthed a people who valued strength, discipline, and unity. The Mandalorians became a nomadic warrior society, their clans bound together by a code of honor known as the Rezolnar. This code, emphasizing loyalty, combat prowess, and the survival of their culture, formed the backbone of Mandalorian identity. But their evolution into one of the galaxy's most formidable fighting forces was not purely organic. It was a direct response to the challenges they faced. One of the pivotal shifts in Mandalorian culture occurred during their early expansions into the galaxy. As they encountered other species and civilizations, their thirst for conquest grew. Mandalorian warriors, driven by a belief in their cultural superiority, sought to prove their strength through domination. Their campaigns were as much a spiritual endeavor as a military one, a means of ensuring their way of life endured through the assimilation of others. These conquests refined their martial skills and technology, transforming them into a hyper-adaptive force capable of confronting almost any foe. The Mandalorian Jedi Wars were born from this expansionist drive. The Jedi, sworn to protect peace and justice in the galaxy, became a natural enemy of the Mandalorians. While the Jedi sought balance, the Mandalorians thrived on the chaos of war. Their philosophies clashed on a fundamental level, with the Jedi's reliance on the Force standing in stark contrast to the Mandalorians' reliance on discipline and innovation. For the Mandalorians, the Jedi represented a threat not just to their conquests, but to their very way of life. The Mandalorians' response to the Jedi's seemingly insurmountable powers was one of their greatest innovations: Beskar. This rare, iron-like metal became the cornerstone of their technological evolution. Beskar armor, forged with unmatched craftsmanship, could resist even the lightsabers wielded by the Jedi. This innovation leveled the playing field, transforming the Mandalorians into a foe unlike any the Jedi had faced before. Every battle became a test of ingenuity, with the Mandalorians constantly adapting their weapons and tactics to counter the Jedi's abilities. But the Mandalorian Jedi Wars were not merely a series of skirmishes, they were a cultural crucible. The Mandalorians, despite their prowess, suffered immense losses against the Jedi, whose connection to the Force gave them an undeniable edge in large-scale conflicts. These defeats forced the Mandalorians to evolve their strategies further. They shifted from direct confrontation to asymmetric warfare, employing ambushes, traps, and guerrilla tactics. This shift not only prolonged the wars, but also solidified their reputation as fearsome and cunning adversaries. The Jedi's fear of the Mandalorians was not unfounded. The Mandalorian war machine was relentless, driven by a code that revered strength and survival above all else. For the Jedi, who viewed violence as a last resort, The Mandalorians' unyielding aggression was both alien and terrifying. Yet, this fear was also rooted in respect. The Mandalorians' ability to counteract the Force with sheer willpower and ingenuity challenged the Jedi's perception of their own supremacy. The wars became a proving ground, not just for the Mandalorians but for the Jedi as well, forcing both sides to confront the limits of their philosophies. The aftermath of the Mandalorian Jedi Wars saw Mandalore devastated. Their homeworld, scarred by the destructive power of the Jedi, became a symbol of their resilience and their tragedy. Yet, even in defeat, the Mandalorians refused to abandon their warrior ethos. Instead, they adapted once again, turning their focus inward. Civil wars erupted as clans vied for dominance, each interpreting the Resolnar in their own way. This internal strife further shaped their culture, reinforcing the importance of strength and loyalty, while highlighting the dangers of disunity. The emergence of pacifist factions, such as the New Mandalorians, marked another turning point in Mandalorian history. Leaders like Duchess Satine Kryze sought to break free from the cycle of violence that had defined their people for centuries. Yet, this shift was met with resistance from traditionalist factions like Death Watch, who viewed pacifism as a betrayal of Mandalorian identity. This internal conflict mirrored the larger struggles of Mandalorian culture, torn between its warrior roots and the desire for peace. The Jedi's lingering fear of the Mandalorians persisted through the ages, even as the two sides ceased open hostilities. The Mandalorians' ability to resist and even challenge the Jedi Order left an indelible mark on galactic history. For the Jedi, the Mandalorian Wars served as a reminder of the dangers posed by a determined and adaptive foe. For the Mandalorians, the wars became a source of pride and identity, a testament to their resilience and ingenuity. Mandalorian culture, shaped by its encounters with the Jedi and its own internal struggles, remains a fascinating tapestry of contradictions. Their warrior ethos, born from necessity and honed through conflict, continues to define them. Yet, the question of what it means to be Mandalorian remains fluid, evolving with each generation. Yoda's secret missions. What missions did Yoda undertake in his 900-year life, and how did they shape the fate of the galaxy? Yoda's 9 centuries of life were filled with unparalleled wisdom, quiet humility, and moments of decisive action. Known to the galaxy as a serene and measured Grand Master of the Jedi Order, his legacy was forged not only in the open halls of the Jedi Temple, but also in the shadowy corners of the galaxy. While many of his deeds remain enshrined in the records of the Jedi Order, there are missions Yoda undertook, some whispered about, others erased entirely, that shaped the fate of countless systems and influenced the balance of the Force itself. Yoda's earliest missions as a young Jedi remain shrouded in mystery. Even the archives of the Jedi Temple offer little about his formative years, a testament to his own preference for discretion. Yet, accounts from ancient records suggest that Yoda was deeply involved in securing peace across distant and volatile regions of the galaxy. These missions, often into territories untouched by the Republic, gave him a unique perspective on the diverse cultures and challenges faced by the galaxy's inhabitants. In these formative journeys, Yoda began to see the Force not as an abstract power wielded by Jedi, but as a living presence, flowing through all things. This understanding would define his philosophy and shape the Jedi Order for centuries. One of Yoda's most significant missions occurred during the tumultuous era of the Great Sith Wars. Though already a revered Jedi Master, Yoda often operated away from the front lines, engaging in covert missions to uncover Sith relics and secrets. These artifacts, imbued with the dark side, posed a threat to the galaxy if left unchecked. Yoda's deep connection to the Force allowed him to sense these relics, even when their locations were concealed through Sith alchemy. On one such mission, he traveled to the shadowy depths of Moraband, the ancient homeworld of the Sith. where he confronted lingering spirits of the dark side. The knowledge he gained on Moraband would later inform the Jedi's strategies against the Sith and deepen his understanding of the temptations and dangers posed by the dark side. Yoda's encounters with the Sith were not confined to the ancient past. During his tenure as Grand Master, he was often the first to sense the stirrings of darkness that preceded major galactic conflicts. When whispers of a growing separatist movement began to surface long before the Clone Wars, Yoda personally investigated the Outer Rim territories where discontent brewed. These missions, conducted in secret, brought him face to face with the realities of the Republic's growing instability. While others in the Jedi Council dismissed these rumblings as political posturing, Yoda's intuition told him otherwise. His efforts to broker peace among dissatisfied systems temporarily staved off rebellion, but also revealed the cracks in the Republic's foundation. A particularly enigmatic chapter of Yoda's life centers around his journey to the Force-rich planet of Dagobah. Though it is best known as his final refuge during the Empire's reign, Yoda's connection to Dagobah began centuries earlier. Drawn by a vision, Yoda ventured into the swamps of Dagobah in search of a vergence in the Force. What he found there remains largely unknown, even to his closest confidants. Some speculate that Dagobah's natural connection to the Force allowed Yoda to commune with ancient Jedi spirits, gaining insights into the future struggles of the Jedi Order. The planet's chaotic yet harmonious ecosystem also mirrored Yoda's belief in the balance of the Force, reinforcing his conviction that the Jedi must adapt and evolve to survive. Throughout the centuries, Yoda's missions often placed him at the crossroads of galactic power. During the rise of the Mandalorian Crusaders, Yoda played a key role in diplomatic efforts to prevent all-out war between Mandalore and the Republic. While the Mandalorians ultimately rejected these overtures, Yoda's negotiation tactics revealed his unparalleled ability to find common ground, even with those who distrusted the Jedi. His presence during these tense talks left an impression on Mandalorian leaders, earning him respect even among those who viewed the Jedi as adversaries. During the height of the Republic, Yoda's responsibilities as Grand Master grew. Yet he continued to take on missions that required subtlety and wisdom beyond the reach of other Jedi. One such mission brought him to the icy world of Ilum, where he guided young Jedi initiates in their quest to find kyber crystals for their lightsabers. But Ilum was also a place of deep spiritual significance, and Yoda used these journeys to impart lessons about the Force that transcended combat. His time on Ilum underscored his belief that the Jedi's strength lay not in their weapons, but in their connection to the Force and their commitment to peace. The years leading to the Clone Wars saw Yoda engaged in increasingly covert operations as the galaxy teetered on the edge of chaos. One of his most secretive missions involved a journey to the distant and mysterious world of Mortis, a place steeped in the Force and home to beings who personified its light, dark, and balanced aspects. While the specifics of this mission remain cloaked in legend, it is said that Yoda's encounter with the Force wielders of Mortis deepened his understanding of balance and the role of the Jedi within the galaxy. This experience likely influenced his later decisions during the darkest days of the Clone Wars and his retreat into exile after the rise of the Empire. Yoda's final missions before the fall of the Jedi Order were perhaps the most consequential. Sensing the rise of the dark side but unable to pinpoint its source, Yoda undertook secret journeys to investigate ancient Sith sites and other locations imbued with dark energy. These missions, though incomplete, hinted at the scale of Palpatine's machinations and the Sith's infiltration of the Republic. Yoda's failure to uncover the full scope of the Sith's plan weighed heavily on him, shaping his decisions during the final days of the Clone Wars. Even in exile on Dagobah, Yoda's actions continued to influence the galaxy's fate. His decision to train Luke Skywalker, though controversial, reflected his belief that the Jedi's future lay not in rebuilding the Order as it once was, but in embracing a new path. Yoda's teachings to Luke were informed by centuries of experience, distilled into lessons about the Force, balance, and the importance of inner strength. The secret missions Yoda undertook over his 900 years of life reveal a figure deeply committed to understanding the Force and protecting the galaxy. His willingness to step into the shadows, to confront ancient evils and seek wisdom in the unknown, set him apart even among the Jedi. These missions, though often unsung, were instrumental in shaping the galaxy's destiny, ensuring that even in its darkest moments, the light of the Jedi endured. The Dathomirian Mystery. Were the Night Sisters and Night Brothers of Dathomir once part of a more ancient Force-wielding order predating the Sith and Jedi? Dathomir, shrouded in mist and haunted by shadows, is a world unlike any other. Its blood-red skies and gnarled landscapes speak to an ancient and mysterious past. Here, the Night Sisters and Night Brothers carved out their own dark legacy, wielding the Force in ways foreign to both the Jedi and Sith. But their existence raises tantalizing questions. Could these enigmatic clans have roots in a more ancient Force-wielding order, one that predates the dichotomy of light and dark as defined by the Jedi and Sith? The Night Sisters, led by matriarchal figures like Mother Talzin, were masters of magics, a manifestation of the Force distinct from traditional Force powers. Their rituals, steeped in alchemy and shamanistic traditions, allowed them to manipulate life and death, control the minds of others, and craft spells of unparalleled complexity. Yet, the Night Sisters themselves spoke of their magics as a gift from an ancient source, a deeper connection to Dathomir itself. This raises the possibility that their power is a relic of a forgotten age, a fragment of knowledge passed down from a time before the Jedi and Sith codified their understanding of the Force. The planet Dathomir itself holds clues to this mystery. The planet's deep connection to the Force is evident in its flora and fauna, much of which seems unnaturally attuned to its energy. The Rancors, used as mounts by the Night Sisters, are not merely beasts of burden, but guardians of the planet's primal power. Legends suggest that Dathomir was once a sanctuary for Force wielders seeking refuge from galactic conflict. These early settlers may have blended their practices with the planet's innate energy, creating a unique tradition that evolved into the Night Sisters' magics. The possibility that Dathomir served as a cradle for an ancient Force order is bolstered by the planet's isolation, allowing its traditions to develop free from outside influence. The Night Brothers, the male counterparts to the Night Sisters, were often seen as subservient warriors, their strength harnessed to serve the Coven. Yet their role in this society hints at a deeper connection to an ancient past. The Night Brothers were not simply tools of violence, they were integral to the rituals and traditions of the Night Sisters, participating in rites that blended their physical prowess with the mystical. This balance of roles, male strength and female sorcery, suggests an echo of an older system, one that valued harmony between different aspects of the Force. Could this partnership reflect the practices of an ancient order that sought to unify rather than divide the Force's many facets? The Night Sisters' magics also bear striking similarities to Sith alchemy, a connection that cannot be ignored. Both traditions manipulate the Force to alter the physical world, whether through the creation of monstrous beings or the crafting of powerful artifacts. Yet while Sith alchemy is steeped in domination and control, Night Sister magics often serve a communal purpose, strengthening their clan and protecting their way of life. This distinction suggests that the Night Sisters' practices may predate the Sith, representing a purer form of Force manipulation that the Sith later corrupted for their own ends. Mother Talzin, one of the most enigmatic figures in Dathomirian history, provides further evidence of these ancient roots. Her connection to the Force was profound, rivaling that of the most powerful Jedi and Sith. Talzin spoke of the Great Mother, an entity tied to Dathomir's magics, whose influence seemed to transcend the galaxy's traditional understanding of the Force. Whether the Great Mother was a literal being or a metaphorical representation of an ancient power, it suggests a lineage that extends far beyond the Night Sisters themselves. Talzin's alliances and rivalries also point to her deeper understanding of the Force's history. Her interactions with Darth Sidious, for instance, reveal a complex dynamic. Sidious sought to harness Talzin's power, recognizing it as something unique and ancient. Yet he also feared it. This fear underscores the possibility that the Night Sisters' magics were not merely an offshoot of Sith practices, but a separate, older tradition that Sidious could not fully control. The architectural remnants scattered across Dathomir also lend weight to the theory of a pre-Jedi, pre-Sith force-wielding order. The ruins of temples and altars, some bearing carvings of unknown symbols, suggest a civilization that predates the Night Sisters themselves. These structures, aligned with the planet's natural force nexuses, hint at an understanding of the Force that was deeply integrated with the natural world. If these ruins do indeed belong to an ancient order, they may represent a lost chapter in the history of the Force, one that predates the philosophical divides that later emerged. The Night Sisters' downfall, brought about by General Grievous and the Separatist army, only deepens the mystery. Their near extinction suggests a deliberate attempt to erase their knowledge from the galaxy. The Sith, in particular, had much to gain from the destruction of the Night Sisters, whose magics posed a threat to their dominance over the dark side. This eradication mirrors the Jedi Order's treatment of other Force traditions, reinforcing the idea that the Night Sisters were part of a larger, suppressed lineage of Force wielders. Even after their destruction, the Night Sisters' legacy endures in figures like Asajj Ventress and Savage Opress. Ventress, trained as both a Night Sister and a Sith apprentice, embodies the intersection of these traditions, her abilities reflecting the unique power of Dathomirian magics. Opress, transformed by Night Sister rituals, became a living weapon, a testament to the potency of their ancient practices. These individuals, shaped by the Night Sisters' teachings, carried fragments of their knowledge into the wider galaxy, ensuring that their legacy would not be entirely lost. The fall of the Jedi Order. Was the Jedi Order's downfall due to their rigid adherence to dogma, or were external Sith influences more decisive? The Jedi Order, once the galaxy's most revered institution, crumbled under the weight of betrayal and war. But was their fall inevitable, a product of their own stagnation and adherence to outdated principles? Or did the insidious machinations of the Sith, creeping into every facet of the Republic, seal their fate long before they realized the danger? The answer lies in the intricate web of choices, beliefs, and manipulations that defined the final years of the Order. The Jedi Order had stood as guardians of peace and justice for millennia, their philosophy rooted in selflessness, discipline, and detachment. Yet, by the time of the Republic's decline, the Order had become increasingly rigid, more concerned with maintaining its traditions than adapting to the galaxy's evolving needs. Their dogmatic interpretation of the Force, with its strict separation of light and dark, left little room for nuance. Did this rigidity blind them to the subtle changes in the galaxy around them? Could they have foreseen their demise if they had been willing to question their own teachings? Consider the role of attachment in the Jedi Code. The Order's prohibition against emotional connections, including love and familial bonds, was intended to prevent attachment from leading to fear and anger, emotions that could fuel the dark side. But in their efforts to suppress emotion, did the Jedi inadvertently create a void that left their members vulnerable to manipulation? Anakin Skywalker, the Chosen One, exemplifies this paradox. His secret love for Padme Amidala, hidden from the Jedi out of fear of reprisal, became a tool the Sith exploited to devastating effect. Would Anakin have fallen so easily if the Jedi had embraced a more compassionate understanding of human emotion? The Jedi's role in the Clone Wars further underscores their struggles with adaptability. Once keepers of peace, the Jedi were thrust into the role of generals, leading an army of clones in a galaxy-wide conflict. Their involvement in the war marked a profound departure from their core values, forcing them to act as soldiers rather than mediators. Did this shift in purpose erode the moral foundation of the Order? By aligning themselves so closely with the Republic's military-industrial complex, the Jedi became symbols of war rather than peace, alienating those they were sworn to protect. How many worlds viewed them as oppressors rather than saviors, their lightsabers a symbol of conflict instead of hope? Yet, the Jedi's failures cannot be understood in isolation. The Sith, operating from the shadows, orchestrated a masterful campaign to exploit these weaknesses. Darth Sidious, hidden behind the guise of Supreme Chancellor Palpatine, manipulated the Republic and the Jedi Order with surgical precision. His rise to power was not merely a result of his cunning, but of his ability to anticipate and exploit the Jedi's flaws. Palpatine knew that the Jedi's commitment to the Republic would make them blind to his true nature, even as he tightened his grip on the Senate and the galaxy at large. Order 66, the catastrophic event that wiped out the Jedi, was the culmination of Sidious's plan. But the seeds of their destruction were sown long before the Clone Wars began. Through his apprentice Count Dooku, Sidious ensured the galaxy would be plunged into chaos, forcing the Jedi to abandon their principles in the name of survival. The clone army, seemingly a gift to the Republic, was in fact a Trojan horse, its soldiers programmed to turn on the Jedi at a single command. Did the Jedi's reliance on the clones, despite their mysterious origins, represent a failure of vigilance? Or were they simply outmaneuvered by a foe who had spent decades crafting their demise? The Jedi's isolation from the common people also played a significant role in their downfall. The Order, headquartered in the towering spires of the Jedi Temple on Coruscant, had become increasingly detached from the everyday struggles of the galaxy's citizens. Their reliance on the Force, while a source of great power, also fostered a sense of elitism that alienated them from those they sought to protect. Could a more grounded Jedi Order, one that engaged directly with the lives of ordinary beings, have prevented the rise of the Empire? Or was their lofty position a necessary byproduct of their role as guardians of peace? The interplay between internal flaws and external manipulation is perhaps most evident in the relationship between Anakin Skywalker and Palpatine. Anakin, heralded as the chosen one destined to bring balance to the Force, became the Sith's greatest weapon. Palpatine's ability to exploit Anakin's fear of loss, his desire for power, and his disillusionment with the Jedi Order reveals the depth of the Sith's influence. But Anakin's fall also highlights the Jedi's failure to nurture and support him. They saw him as a tool of prophecy rather than a person, and their inability to address his inner turmoil left him vulnerable to the dark side. The fall of the Jedi Order was not a single event, but a slow unraveling, the result of both internal rigidity and external pressure. The Sith's influence was decisive, but it could not have succeeded without the cracks already present in the Jedi's foundation. Their adherence to dogma, their detachment from emotion, and their alignment with the Republic's flawed political system all contributed to their vulnerability. At the same time, the Sith's ability to operate undetected, to infiltrate the highest levels of power, and to turn the Republic's own mechanisms against the Jedi ensured their eventual destruction. The question remains, could the Jedi have survived if they had been more adaptable, more willing to challenge their own beliefs? Or was their fate sealed the moment the Sith began their long game of deception? The answers are as complex as the galaxy itself, a tapestry of light and dark, choice and manipulation that continues to resonate long after the Jedi Temple fell silent. The rise of the Inquisitors. How did Palpatine craft the Inquisitorius? And did any Jedi willingly become Inquisitors for reasons beyond survival? The Inquisitorius, a shadowy force of Jedi hunters wielding the dark side, was one of Emperor Palpatine's most insidious creations. Its very existence was a mockery of the Jedi Order, a perverse inversion of the light they had once brought to the galaxy. But how did Palpatine transform Jedi into instruments of terror? And what could compel some to willingly embrace this role, choosing to hunt their former allies under the Empire's banner? The foundation of the Inquisitorius began in the aftermath of Order 66, as the galaxy reeled from the sudden and violent purge of the Jedi. With the majority of Jedi killed in the initial assault, Palpatine's next challenge was to root out the survivors, those scattered across the galaxy who might one day rise to challenge his rule. For this task, Palpatine needed more than stormtroopers or Sith apprentices. He needed hunters, beings attuned to the Force, able to track and destroy those who had once been their kin. Palpatine's genius lay in his ability to manipulate and twist even the most principled individuals. He understood that survival was a powerful motivator, but it was not the only tool at his disposal. Some Jedi, disillusioned by the Order's failures or consumed by anger over the betrayal they had suffered, were vulnerable to his promises. Others, haunted by guilt or the belief that the Jedi had brought about their own downfall, could be persuaded that the path of the Inquisitor was not one of betrayal but of necessity. Did these fallen Jedi see themselves as villains, or as individuals adapting to the harsh realities of a galaxy where the Jedi Code no longer had a place? The process of crafting the Inquisitors began with imprisonment and torment. Jedi captured during Order 66 were brought to secret Imperial facilities where they were subjected to psychological and physical torture designed to break their will. The dark side, ever hungry, fed on their pain and despair, transforming them into shadows of their former selves. Yet, this was only the first step. Palpatine and Darth Vader understood that fear alone was not enough to sustain loyalty. The Inquisitors were offered a purpose, a way to channel their anguish into action. They were told that the Jedi had failed them, that the Force itself demanded their obedience to the Empire's new order. For some, this manipulation proved effective. The Grand Inquisitor, a former Jedi Temple guard, was one of the first to fall. His transformation was driven not by desperation, but by deep-seated disillusionment. As a Temple guard, he had witnessed the hypocrisy and arrogance that had infiltrated the Jedi Order, and he came to believe that the Order's destruction was a necessary consequence of its failures. Palpatine capitalized on this disillusionment, presenting the Empire as the galaxy's future and the Inquisitorius as its vanguard. But not all who became Inquisitors did so out of resentment or despair. Some were motivated by a perverse sense of duty. Could it be that a few Jedi genuinely believed the Empire's propaganda, that the Jedi had become traitors and that their continued existence threatened galactic stability? For such individuals, the choice to join the Inquisitorius may have been framed as an act of loyalty, not to the Sith, but to the galaxy itself. Were these Inquisitors truly lost to the dark side, or did they see themselves as reluctant agents of order, sacrificing their principles to prevent further chaos? The training of the Inquisitors was as brutal as their recruitment. Under Darth Vader's supervision, they were taught to embrace their pain, anger, and fear as sources of strength. Yet, they were not Sith. Palpatine ensured that their power was carefully controlled, their abilities honed, but limited to prevent them from becoming a threat to his rule. The Inquisitors were not equals to Vader or the Emperor. They were tools, expendable and replaceable. This dynamic bred resentment and competition among their ranks, further ensuring their loyalty to the Empire's hierarchy. The Inquisitors' role as Jedi hunters was as psychological as it was physical. They were sent not only to kill, but to spread fear, to remind the galaxy that the Jedi were gone, and that any who harbored them would suffer. Their presence was a weapon of intimidation, a constant reminder of the Empire's reach and the futility of resistance. For those Jedi who remained hidden, the Inquisitors represented the ultimate betrayal. A former ally turned predator, wielding the Force not as a means of protection, but as a tool of domination. The Inquisitors were also tasked with capturing Force-sensitive children, ensuring that the next generation of Jedi would never rise. This aspect of their mission revealed the depth of Palpatine's foresight. By eliminating potential threats before they could fully develop, the Inquisitorius helped to secure the Empire's dominance over the galaxy. Yet, this task also exposed the fragility of the dark side's hold over them. How many Inquisitors, faced with the innocence of a child, questioned their path? Did they see in those children the hope that they had once represented? Or did they harden their hearts further, burying any remnants of compassion beneath layers of hatred? Despite their training and loyalty, the Inquisitors were not invincible. Many fell in battle against the very Jedi they were sent to destroy. Others, like the seventh sister and fifth brother, became casualties of their own ambition, their rivalries leading to mistakes that cost them their lives. Yet, even in death, they served Palpatine's purpose. The Inquisitorius was never meant to last. Its existence was a temporary measure, a tool to consolidate power during the Empire's formative years. Once the Jedi were truly extinct, the Inquisitors would have outlived their usefulness. The tragedy of the Inquisitors lies in their duality. They were both victims and perpetrators, individuals who had been broken and remade into instruments of tyranny. Some may have joined out of desperation, others out of belief, but all were ultimately consumed by the darkness they embraced. Their rise and fall serve as a stark reminder of the cost of betrayal, not just to the galaxy, but to themselves. Boba Fett's legacy. Could Boba Fett's survival and actions have broader implications for Mandalorian unification in the post-Empire era? Boba Fett, a name once synonymous with fear and precision, re-emerged from the shadows of galactic history in a galaxy struggling to redefine itself after the fall of the Empire. Once believed to have perished in the Sarlacc's Maw, his survival became more than a testament to his resilience. It symbolized the enduring spirit of a people fractured and scattered. But could Boba Fett, a lone bounty hunter defined by pragmatism and independence, play a role in the unification of Mandalore's fractured clans? Boba's connection to Mandalore has always been a complicated one. The son of Jango Fett, a foundling who wore Mandalorian armor but was shunned by certain factions, Boba inherited both the legacy of the armor and the stigma attached to it. For much of his life, he distanced himself from Mandalorian culture, carving out his identity as a ruthless bounty hunter rather than a participant in Mandalore's turbulent politics. Yet, the armor he wore remained a symbol of something greater, a reminder of a warrior heritage that refused to be forgotten, even when fragmented. When Boba returned to reclaim his armor from Din Djarin, he revealed more than just a desire to regain what was his. His declaration of his lineage and the rights granted by his father's heritage was a quiet assertion of belonging, a subtle acknowledgement of his place within a Mandalorian legacy he had long ignored. Could this act have been the first step in a larger transformation, not just for Boba, but for Mandalore itself? The galaxy Boba re-entered after the fall of the Empire was a galaxy in flux. The New Republic struggled to establish order, and Mandalore remained a shadow of its former self, its people divided by years of war, betrayal, and conflicting ideologies. Some clans clung to the old ways, adhering to the Rezolnar and the warrior traditions that defined them. Others sought a new path, one free from the cycles of violence that had plagued their history. In this fractured landscape, the question arose: could anyone unify the Mandalorian people, or was their identity too deeply splintered? Boba's survival and subsequent actions hint at an answer. By taking control of Jabba the Hutt's criminal empire, he demonstrated not only his ability to survive but to adapt and lead. This shift from lone hunter to ruler marked a significant evolution in his character. Boba's rule was not defined by the brutality of Jabba or the chaotic greed of other crime lords, but by a calculated and pragmatic approach. Could this newfound role as a leader foreshadow his potential to bridge the divides within Mandalorian society? The Darksaber, a powerful symbol of Mandalorian leadership, looms large over any discussion of unification. Though Boba does not wield the blade, his existence as a figure outside the traditional Mandalorian power structures offers a unique perspective. Unlike Din Djarin or Bo-Katan Kryze, whose claims to leadership are tied to tradition and symbolism, Boba's authority stems from his personal strength and the respect he commands. Could this independence make him the kind of leader Mandalore needs? One who transcends the divisions of the past and forges a new path forward. Yet Boba's potential role in Mandalorian unification is not without challenges. His reputation as a bounty hunter and his history of working for the Empire could make him a polarizing figure among Mandalorians who view him as an outsider or even a traitor. Would the clans accept him as a leader, or would they see him as an opportunist, a man who abandoned Mandalorian values for personal gain? These doubts underscore the complexities of Mandalorian identity and the difficulties of uniting a people whose history is steeped in conflict. Despite these challenges, Boba's survival itself serves as a powerful metaphor for Mandalorian resilience. Like Boba, Mandalore has endured countless defeats, yet it persists. Its people, scattered across the galaxy, carry the traditions and values of their ancestors, waiting for a moment to reclaim their place. Boba's journey from the depths of the Sarlacc pit to a position of power mirrors the potential rebirth of Mandalore itself. Could his actions inspire others to look beyond their divisions and see the strength that comes from unity? The relationship between Boba and Din Djarin also provides insight into his potential role in Mandalorian unification. Din, a devout follower of the Way of the Mandalore, initially viewed Boba with suspicion. Yet, their alliance revealed a mutual respect that transcended their differences. This dynamic, built on trust rather than ideology, reflects the kind of leadership Mandalore might need. A leadership based not on rigid adherence to tradition, but on the ability to bring people together through shared purpose. Boba's pragmatic approach to leadership, free from the dogma that has often divided Mandalorians, could be the key to forging a new identity for his people. By embracing both the traditions of the past and the realities of the present, he could become a unifying figure, one who bridges the gap between the old ways and a new future. His actions, whether driven by a sense of duty or personal ambition, have the potential to reshape the legacy of Mandalore and the role of its people in the galaxy. The question remains, does Boba Fett see himself as part of Mandalore's future, or is his focus solely on carving out his own legacy? His journey suggests a man who has grown beyond the lone hunter he once was, someone who understands the value of alliances and the power of a united front. Whether he chooses to embrace his Mandalorian heritage fully or remains an independent figure, his survival and actions have already sent ripples through the galaxy, challenging notions of what it means to be Mandalorian and what the future of Mandalore might hold. The unknown regions. What secrets lie in the unknown regions, and how did Thrawn and Palpatine use these areas to consolidate power? The unknown regions, a vast and treacherous expanse beyond the galaxy's mapped territories, have long been a source of mystery and fear. Veiled by unstable hyperspace routes, gravitational anomalies, and uncharted star systems, this region has eluded even the most advanced navigators. Yet, for those daring enough or desperate enough to venture into its depths, the unknown regions hold unimaginable secrets. For Emperor Palpatine and Grand Admiral Thrawn, this shadowy frontier was not merely a place of refuge, but a crucible where power could be forged, alliances tested, and the future of the galaxy shaped. Why did Palpatine, a man obsessed with control and foresight, turn his gaze towards such an unpredictable and hostile region? The answer lies in the very nature of the unknown regions. Its chaos represented both a threat and an opportunity. While it posed insurmountable challenges for most, it also offered something Palpatine craved: the chance to consolidate power away from the watchful eyes of the galaxy. Here, in this untamed wilderness, Palpatine could construct the foundations of his ultimate contingency plans. One of Palpatine's most secretive projects was the establishment of Exegol, hidden deep within the unknown regions. This ancient Sith redoubt, accessible only through a perilous hyperspace path known to a select few, became the centerpiece of his plans for immortality and domination. On Exegol, Sith Eternal Loyalists toiled for decades, constructing fleets of Star Destroyers equipped with planet-destroying weapons. These ships were more than instruments of terror. They were Palpatine's vision of a new empire, one that would rise from the ashes of the old. The remoteness of the unknown regions made Exegol nearly impossible to find, a fortress hidden in darkness. But Exegol was not the only secret buried in this enigmatic region. The unknown regions were home to ancient civilizations and unexplored worlds, many of which possessed unique connections to the Force. Some whispered of vergences in the Force, places where its currents were unnaturally strong. Others spoke of entire species with an innate sensitivity to the Force, their existence untouched by the light and dark dichotomy that defined the galaxy. Did Palpatine seek to harness these untapped energies for his own ends? Or did the unknown regions themselves shape his growing obsession with immortality and ultimate control? Thrawn's involvement in the unknown regions added another layer to its significance. A native of the Chiss Ascendancy, a powerful and enigmatic civilization hidden within these territories, Thrawn understood the dangers and opportunities of the unknown regions better than most. His alliance with the Empire was not born of loyalty but of pragmatism. Thrawn believed that the Empire's resources and discipline could help protect his people from a mysterious and deadly threat known only as the Grisk. This shadowy enemy, shrouded in whispers, was rumored to be a nomadic and cunning species that operated through fear and manipulation, rivaling the Sith in their ambition. Thrawn's partnership with Palpatine was mutually beneficial, though rife with unspoken tension. While Thrawn offered the Emperor knowledge of the unknown regions and its navigational challenges, Palpatine saw the Chiss Admiral as both a tool and a potential rival. Was Palpatine's interest in the unknown regions driven solely by his desire for hidden strongholds, or was he also preparing for a confrontation with threats even he did not fully understand? The Grisk, with their subtle invasions and psychological warfare, posed a danger not only to the Chiss, but to the galaxy at large. Could Palpatine's obsession with the unknown regions have been, at least in part, a response to this emerging menace? The unknown regions also served as a refuge for remnants of the Empire after its defeat at the Battle of Endor. With the New Republic consolidating power in the core worlds, Imperial loyalists retreated into the chaos of the unknown regions, where they could regroup and rebuild. It was here that the seeds of the First Order were planted. Under the guidance of leaders like Rey Sloane and Brendel Hux, these remnants forged a new vision of Imperial power, one that blended Palpatine's authoritarianism with a more brutal and militarized approach. The First Order's rise from the depths of the unknown regions underscored its strategic value as a sanctuary for those who thrived in its unpredictability. Navigating the unknown regions required more than courage, it demanded innovation. The hyperspace routes within this region were ever-changing, warped by gravitational anomalies and other phenomena. To overcome these challenges, the Chiss Ascendancy employed Force-sensitive navigators known as Skywalkers, young individuals capable of charting safe paths through the maelstrom. The Empire, too, sought to develop its own methods, using advanced technology and Sith alchemy to navigate the treacherous expanse. What secrets did these navigational experiments uncover? Did they reveal deeper truths about the Force, or did they simply add to the layers of mystery that shrouded the region? The unknown regions also challenged the boundaries of understanding. Its alien civilizations, unconnected to the Republic or the Empire, offered glimpses into entirely different ways of life. Some worlds possessed technologies far beyond anything seen in the galaxy's core, while others lived in symbiosis with the Force in ways that defied the Jedi and Sith's teachings. These encounters raised questions about the universality of the Force and the limits of its interpretation. What could the unknown regions teach about the Force's origins, and how might these revelations have influenced both Thrawn and Palpatine? Thrawn's tactical genius, honed by his experiences in the unknown regions, made him a formidable ally and adversary. His strategies, often informed by his deep understanding of art and culture, reflected the unique challenges of navigating a galaxy defined by chaos and unpredictability. But Thrawn's ultimate allegiance remained unclear. Was he truly loyal to the Empire, or was he playing a longer game, using Imperial resources to prepare for the Chiss's survival in an uncertain future? Did his actions in the unknown regions serve Palpatine's vision, or did they align with his own secret agenda? For Palpatine, the unknown regions were a proving ground for his ambition. Here, beyond the reach of the Jedi and the prying eyes of the Republic, he could experiment with new forms of power, build fleets in secret, and prepare for contingencies that might never come to pass. The secrecy and chaos of the unknown regions mirrored his own strategies, creating layers of deception and misdirection that kept his enemies off balance. Yet the unknown regions were also a source of danger, their mysteries challenging even Palpatine's formidable grasp. Darth Maul's true potential. Could Maul have succeeded in overthrowing Palpatine if he had focused his efforts beyond revenge? Darth Maul, a figure of raw ferocity and boundless ambition, was once destined to be Darth Sidious's ultimate weapon. Trained as a Sith assassin, he was designed for singular purpose: vengeance against the Jedi and the execution of Sidious's grand plan. Yet his life took an unexpected turn when Obi-Wan Kenobi severed his body and seemingly ended his story on Naboo. But Maul survived, fueled by sheer hatred and the dark side's insatiable hunger. His survival, however, came at a cost, an all-consuming obsession with revenge that would define the rest of his life. Could Maul have been more than a vengeful shadow? What might he have achieved had he channeled his focus toward a calculated challenge to Sidious's empire? Maul's resurrection marked the beginning of a new chapter for him, one where his identity shifted from a Sith apprentice to something far more complicated. After being found by his brother Savage Opress and restored by Night Sister Magix, Maul emerged not as a broken man, but as a force of unparalleled ambition. Yet this new lease on life was not one of clarity or purpose. It was dominated by a burning desire for revenge against both the Jedi who had maimed him and the Master who had abandoned him. Revenge became Maul's prison, and every move he made was shackled to this singular goal. But consider the power Maul wielded and the influence he amassed, despite his fractured psyche. He united criminal syndicates under the banner of the Shadow Collective, including the Pike Syndicate, Black Sun, and even the Mandalorian Death Watch. On Mandalore, Maul orchestrated a coup that placed him as its de facto ruler, a position of significant power in the galaxy's outer rim. These accomplishments demonstrated Maul's ability to lead, manipulate, and inspire loyalty in others. What might have been possible had he used these tools to challenge Palpatine rather than indulge his need for personal vengeance? Maul's rule on Mandalore revealed glimpses of his strategic brilliance. His manipulation of Previsla and Death Watch showed an understanding of power dynamics that rivaled even Sidious's own tactics. Maul understood that true power came not from brute strength but from controlling the systems and alliances that sustained it. By aligning himself with powerful crime syndicates and seizing control of Mandalore, Maul created a base of operations that could have rivaled the Empire's influence in the Outer Rim. Yet, Instead of consolidating his power, Maul's obsession with Sidious and Kenobi pulled him away from the bigger picture. What would have happened if Maul had abandoned his personal vendettas and focused on building a lasting power base? Could he have positioned the Shadow Collective as a legitimate rival to the Empire? With access to Mandalore's resources, including its legendary Beskar, and the loyalty of some of the galaxy's most ruthless organizations, Maul had the means to carve out an empire of his own. His cunning and charisma were undeniable. He could have attracted disillusioned Imperial officers, rogue Jedi, and other outcasts seeking refuge from Sidious's tyranny. The foundations were there, but Maul's inability to let go of his hatred kept him from realizing his full potential. Even as a strategist, Maul was more than capable of challenging Sidious. His knowledge of the Sith, their philosophy, and their methods gave him a unique advantage over other adversaries of the Empire. He understood how Sidious operated and could anticipate his moves in ways few others could. Had Maul used this insight to systematically dismantle Sidious's networks and sow discord within the Empire, he might have been able to destabilize the Sith's grip on the galaxy. Instead, his plans were often short-sighted, designed to lure Kenobi into traps or confront Sidious directly, rather than undermine the larger structures of power. Maul's encounter with Sidious on Mandalore was a turning point that highlighted both his potential and his limitations. When Sidious arrived to confront his former apprentice, Maul did not face him with a coalition of allies or a well-devised plan. Instead, he relied on brute force and the assistance of savage Opress. The confrontation was inevitable, but its outcome was predetermined. Sidious easily defeated Maul, imprisoning him and reminding him that his power alone was not enough to challenge the Dark Lord of the Sith. Yet, even in defeat, Maul survived, proving once again his resilience and ability to adapt. The question remains, what might Maul have achieved had he let go of his obsession with revenge? If he had redirected his hatred into a campaign of subterfuge and rebellion, could he have succeeded where others failed? Unlike the Jedi, who sought to preserve peace, or the rebellion, which fought for freedom, Maul's goals would have been rooted in pure ambition. This ambition, unshackled from personal vendettas, could have created a power structure capable of challenging Sidious's empire from within and without. Maul's final years, particularly during the events of Star Wars Rebels, revealed a man still consumed by the past, but capable of extraordinary insight. His manipulation of Ezra Bridger and his quest to defeat Sidious's apprentice Darth Vader hinted at what he might have become had he embraced a larger vision. Maul's understanding of the Force and its duality, as well as his willingness to operate outside the Jedi-Sith dichotomy, positioned him as a unique figure in the galaxy's power struggles. Could Maul have become a unifying force for those disillusioned with both the Empire and the Rebellion, carving out a new path unbound by the ideologies of the past? Ultimately, Maul's greatest enemy was not Sidious or Kenobi, but himself. His inability to see beyond his pain and hatred limited his potential, reducing him to a tragic figure rather than a transformative one. Yet, his story serves as a reminder of the untapped power of ambition and resilience. Had Maul chosen to channel his energies toward a greater purpose, the galaxy might have seen the rise of a new kind of leader, one who could challenge the Sith on their own terms and offer a different vision of power. What could Maul have built if he had truly let go of his past? And how might the galaxy have changed under his rule? These questions linger like echoes in the Force, a testament to the possibilities that were lost in the shadows of revenge. Leia's untapped potential. How powerful could Leia Organa have become had she fully embraced Jedi training, and could she have altered galactic history? Leia Organa, known to the galaxy as a fearless leader, diplomat, and symbol of rebellion, carried within her the potential to reshape the fate of the Force itself. Born of Anakin Skywalker and Padme Amidala, Leia shared the same extraordinary lineage as her brother, Luke, with all the strength and connection to the Force that came with it. Yet, unlike Luke, Leia chose a different path, focusing on leadership and political reform rather than the ways of the Jedi. What if Leia had fully embraced Jedi training? Could her power, insight, and innate ability have fundamentally altered the course of galactic history? Leia's inherent connection to the Force was undeniable, even before she became aware of her lineage. Her sharp intuition, unwavering resolve, and ability to inspire others hinted at a deeper connection to the energy that bound the galaxy together. During the rebellion, Leia's leadership often felt guided by something greater than strategy or experience. Was the Force already working through her, subtly influencing her decisions and actions? Imagine what she could have achieved had she actively cultivated this connection through formal Jedi training. Unlike her brother, Leia approached the revelation of her heritage with a measured, pragmatic mindset. Where Luke saw the Force as a means of discovery and self-realization, Leia viewed it as a tool, a responsibility tied to the greater good. Had she chosen to train as a Jedi, her disciplined and focused nature might have allowed her to surpass even Luke in mastery of the Force. How might her political acumen and Force sensitivity have combined to forge a leader who could unite the galaxy, not just politically, but spiritually? One of Leia's most powerful traits was her ability to balance compassion with strength. This duality, so rare among leaders, would have made her an exceptional Jedi. The Jedi Code often struggled to reconcile emotional detachment with the need for empathy. But Leia's life as a diplomat and warrior already demonstrated her mastery of this balance. As a Jedi, she could have brought a nuanced perspective to the Order, one that valued connection and humanity as much as discipline and control. Could Leia have redefined what it meant to be a Jedi, steering the Order toward a path of inclusion and adaptability? Leia's potential as a Jedi was not limited to her wisdom and leadership. Her raw power, inherited from her father, was hinted at in moments of crisis. When she reached out to Luke across vast distances in the Force, or when she saved herself from certain death in the vacuum of space, these moments were glimpses of a strength largely untapped. If Leia had fully committed to training, could she have surpassed Anakin's might, achieving the balance he never could? Would her strength have allowed her to confront threats like Palpatine or Snoke more directly, altering the galaxy's destiny? Leia's decision to forego Jedi training stemmed from her deep sense of duty. She believed her role as a leader and politician was more vital to the galaxy's immediate needs than becoming a Jedi. But what if this choice had been different? What if Leia had seen the Force not as a distraction, but as a means to amplify her ability to lead and protect? As a Jedi, Leia could have become a beacon of hope, uniting disparate factions of the galaxy under a shared vision of peace and justice. Could she have prevented the rise of the First Order, wielding her power to root out its remnants before they gained strength? Leia's connection to her family also raises intriguing possibilities. As a Jedi, she might have been better equipped to guide her son, Ben Solo, away from the temptations of the dark side. Leia's wisdom and emotional strength, combined with the teachings of the Jedi, could have provided Ben with the stability he craved but lacked. Could Leia's training have been the key to breaking the Skywalker family's cycle of tragedy, preventing Ben's fall and the rise of Kylo Ren? Her relationship with Luke would also have evolved in profound ways. As siblings training together, Leia and Luke could have become a powerful partnership, embodying balance in the Force. Together, they might have rebuilt the Jedi Order not as an institution tied to old traditions, but as something new, something reflective of the galaxy's changing needs. Could this collaboration have created an order that was truly prepared to face the challenges of the post-Empire era? Leia's unique perspective as a leader and a Force-sensitive individual might also have allowed her to bridge the gap between the Jedi and the rest of the galaxy. The Jedi Order's detachment from politics and daily life often led to mistrust and alienation. Leia, with her deep understanding of both worlds, could have redefined this relationship, creating a Jedi Order that worked alongside the Republic rather than standing apart from it. How might this integration have changed the galaxy's perception of the Jedi, making them not just guardians of peace, but active participants in its creation? The visions of the future that Jedi often received could have been a powerful tool for someone of Leia's abilities. Her diplomatic skills, combined with foresight through the Force, might have allowed her to anticipate conflicts and resolve them before they erupted. Would the galaxy have been spared decades of war and suffering if Leia had wielded the Force to guide her decisions as a leader? Leia's untapped potential also speaks to the larger question of choice. The Force offered her extraordinary power, but she chose to prioritize the needs of the galaxy as she saw them. This decision, while selfless, left open the possibility of what might have been. If Leia had fully embraced her destiny as a Jedi, would the galaxy have found the peace it so desperately sought? Or did her decision to lead through other means ultimately serve the greater good in ways the Force itself intended? Leia's story is one of infinite potential, shaped by her choices and the circumstances of her time. The power she carried within her was never fully realized, but it shaped her actions and the galaxy in profound ways. As a Jedi, Leia might have become a legend rivaling even her father, a figure of balance and strength capable of altering the course of history. Yet, even without this path, her legacy as a leader and symbol of hope endures, a reminder that power is not only in what one wields, but in how one chooses to use it. Ahsoka's survival. Was Ahsoka's survival through the Clone Wars and beyond guided by the Force, marking her for a greater purpose? Ahsoka Tano's journey is one of the most remarkable in galactic history, defined by resilience, independence, and an uncanny ability to navigate the galaxy's darkest moments. From her early years as Anakin Skywalker's Padawan to her survival through the chaos of the Clone Wars and the rise of the Empire, Ahsoka's path is a testament to her strength and adaptability. Yet her continued survival raises a compelling question. Was she merely fortunate, or was the Force itself guiding her, preserving her for a greater purpose that lay beyond the scope of the Jedi Order? Ahsoka's departure from the Jedi Order was a pivotal moment, both for her and the galaxy. Falsely accused of treason, she experienced firsthand the flaws and limitations of the institution she had dedicated her life to serving. The Jedi's rigid adherence to dogma and their willingness to cast her aside shattered her faith in the Order, but it did not sever her connection to the Force. Was this moment of betrayal a catalyst, setting her on a path the Force had always intended? By leaving the Order, Ahsoka freed herself from its constraints, allowing her to forge her own destiny and interact with the Force in ways that transcended traditional Jedi teachings. Her survival of Order 66 further underscores the possibility of the Force's intervention in her life. Few Jedi escaped the carnage that swept the galaxy when Palpatine issued his infamous command. But Ahsoka, no longer officially a Jedi, was uniquely positioned to evade the purge. Her partnership with Captain Rex and their mutual trust allowed them to outmaneuver the clone forces turned against them. Yet their survival was not merely a matter of strategy, it felt as though the Force itself had a hand in preserving them. Could it be that Ahsoka's separation from the Jedi Order was not a coincidence, but part of the Force's design to ensure her survival when the Order fell? Ahsoka's post-Clone Wars life is marked by her emergence as a figure operating outside the Jedi-Sith dichotomy. Unlike many of her peers, she did not seek refuge or anonymity, but instead continued to fight against oppression, even as she avoided aligning herself with the remnants of the Jedi. Her adoption of the codename Fulcrum during her work with the early Rebel Alliance highlights her role as a covert operative, quietly influencing the galaxy's fate while remaining in the shadows. Was this intermediary role, neither Jedi nor Sith, neither warrior nor politician, what the Force had intended for her all along? The events surrounding Ahsoka's duel with Darth Vader offer another lens through which to consider her survival. Her confrontation with her former master on Malachor was a moment of profound emotional and physical peril. Yet, even as she faced almost certain death, she was pulled from the brink by Ezra Bridger through the mysterious world between worlds. This enigmatic realm, a nexus of time and space, raises significant questions about the nature of the Force and Ahsoka's place within it. Why was she saved in this moment? And why was she allowed to re-enter the galaxy's timeline? Was her survival a result of chance, or was the Force deliberately ensuring her continued presence? Throughout her life, Ahsoka's connection to the Force manifests in ways that suggest a broader purpose. Unlike traditional Jedi, she does not seek to dominate or suppress the Force, but to understand and harmonize with it. Her white lightsabers, crafted from purified kyber crystals, symbolize her neutrality and her rejection of the dark side's corruption and the Jedi Order's rigid structure. Could this unique perspective, unbound by the traditional constraints of Jedi philosophy, be the reason the Force preserved her? Was she intended to serve as a bridge between the light and dark, an example of balance in an era defined by extremes? Ahsoka's role in guiding others further underscores her potential destiny. From mentoring Ezra Bridger to aiding the fledgling rebellion, Ahsoka consistently uses her wisdom and strength to empower those around her. She does not seek to impose her will, but instead encourages others to find their own paths, a stark contrast to the more authoritarian tendencies of both the Jedi and the Sith. Could this approach represent a new understanding of the Force, one that Ahsoka is uniquely positioned to champion? Her survival and continued involvement in the galaxy's affairs suggest that her story is far from over. With her search for Grand Admiral Thrawn and Ezra Bridger in the post-Empire era, Ahsoka remains a critical player in the galaxy's unfolding history. Thrawn, a tactical genius with connections to the unknown regions, represents a potential threat far beyond the scope of the Empire or the First Order. Is Ahsoka's quest to find him part of a larger plan, a mission orchestrated by the Force to prepare the galaxy for challenges yet to come? Ahsoka's life also raises profound questions about the nature of the Force itself. Does the Force actively guide individuals, preserving them for specific purposes, or does it simply offer opportunities that the strong and the wise are able to seize? Ahsoka's survival and actions suggest a balance between the two, a partnership between her will and the Force's subtle influence. Could this balance be the ultimate message of her story, a reminder that destiny is not imposed but co-created? Her journey invites speculation about what the galaxy might have become without her presence. Without Ahsoka, would Ezra Bridger have fallen to the dark side, his potential lost to despair? Would the early rebellion have found the strength to resist the Empire without Fulcrum's guidance? How many lives were changed? How many futures reshaped by Ahsoka's decision to keep fighting, even when all seemed lost? The Sith holocrons. What untapped knowledge exists in Sith holocrons, and how dangerous could they be if misused? Sith holocrons, with their ominous geometric shapes and blood-red glow, are among the galaxy's most enigmatic and forbidden artifacts. Unlike Jedi holocrons, which serve as repositories of wisdom and guidance, Sith holocrons are vessels of power, temptation, and danger. Crafted with malevolent intent, they contain the collective knowledge of ancient Sith lords, their secrets preserved through millennia of darkness. But what untapped knowledge lies within these holocrons, and how dangerous could they be if they fell into the wrong hands? The very nature of a Sith holocron is steeped in mystery and malice. These artifacts are not merely data storage devices. They are imbued with the dark side itself. To access their knowledge, one must possess a strong connection to the Force, particularly the dark side. As the holocron's gatekeepers, Force-imbued avatars of their creators demand submission and alignment with Sith philosophy. This ensures that only those willing to embrace darkness can unlock their secrets. But what knowledge lies hidden behind these gatekeepers, and why would the Sith go to such lengths to preserve it? Sith holocrons are said to contain forbidden techniques and arcane rituals, from the manipulation of midi-chlorians to the creation of life, to the most destructive applications of the Force. Some holocrons are rumored to house the blueprints for devastating superweapons or strategies for galactic domination, while others detail methods for achieving immortality. The infamous Darth Plagueis, for instance, was known for his mastery of life and death. Could his teachings, long thought lost, reside within one of these holocrons? If so, how many have sought this knowledge, hoping to cheat death or control the living? Yet the danger of Sith holocrons extends beyond their content. Their allure lies in their ability to corrupt. Even a single moment of exposure to their dark energies can sow doubt, fear, and ambition in the most steadfast of minds. The holocron's gatekeeper is not merely a passive guide. It is an active manipulator, designed to test and seduce the seeker. For those who are unprepared or untrained, the risk of being consumed by the holocron's power is immense. Could this be why the Jedi forbade their study, recognizing that even their own knights might not resist the pull of the dark side? Consider the tale of Exar Kun, one of the most infamous Jedi to fall to darkness. His descent began with his insatiable curiosity about forbidden Sith knowledge. It was a Sith holocron, created by Freeden Nad, that first drew him into the depths of the dark side, offering promises of power and understanding. But those promises came at a cost, leading him to betray his teachings, destroy his allies, and plunge the galaxy into chaos. How many others have walked this path, seduced by the whispers of a holocron that promised them everything they desired? Even for those strong enough to resist outright corruption, the knowledge within a Sith holocron poses unique challenges. Sith philosophy is inherently self-serving, valuing strength and domination above all else. To wield the knowledge of a Sith holocron without succumbing to its influence requires an extraordinary balance of will and wisdom. Could a Jedi, trained in restraint and discipline, ever hope to use a Sith holocron without falling into the very darkness they oppose? Or would the act of seeking such knowledge inevitably lead to their undoing? The physical design of Sith holocrons also reflects their sinister intent. Crafted from dark crystals and intricate metals, they are infused with the Force through rituals that bind their creator's essence into the artifact. This connection makes the holocron more than a simple tool. It becomes a living extension of its maker's will. When one interacts with a Sith holocron, they are not merely accessing information. They are engaging with the consciousness of a long-dead Sith Lord, whose voice and presence linger within the artifact. How many of these Sith have used their holocrons as traps, luring unsuspecting seekers into their grasp, and using their influence to live again through their victims? The dangers of Sith holocrons are not confined to individuals. In the wrong hands, their knowledge could destabilize entire star systems. Imagine a warlord unearthing a holocron containing the secrets of mass cloning or the construction of a superweapon capable of eclipsing even the Death Star. Such power, unchecked and unrestrained, could bring devastation on a scale the galaxy has never known. Could this be why Palpatine, a master of Sith lore, kept such artifacts hidden, fearing their use even by his most loyal servants? Yet the lure of Sith holocrons persists. From treasure hunters to Sith cultists, countless individuals have sought them out, hoping to claim the power they contain. The shadowy Sith Eternal, loyal to Palpatine, are rumored to have amassed a collection of these holocrons, using their teachings to guide their construction of fleets and experiments in cloning. If such a group could harness the collective knowledge of the Sith, what could stop them from rising again, even after Palpatine's fall? There is also the question of untapped knowledge, secrets hidden even from the Sith who created these holocrons. Could they contain truths about the Force itself, knowledge predating the Jedi and Sith that has been obscured by millennia of conflict? Some scholars speculate that the oldest Sith holocrons, created in the era of the Dark Lords of Korriban, might hold fragments of understanding about the Force's origins, insights that could challenge everything the galaxy believes about light and dark. If such knowledge exists, would its discovery be a blessing or a curse? For all their danger, Sith holocrons are also objects of unparalleled curiosity. The temptation to understand, to uncover the forbidden, is a universal one. How many Jedi, in their efforts to fight the dark side, have found themselves drawn to these artifacts, believing they could wield their knowledge for good? And how many have fallen as a result, their intentions twisted until they became the very thing they sought to oppose? The clones' free will. Were there other clone uprisings like the one led by Fives, and how many clones secretly resisted Order 66? The story of the clones is one of loyalty, sacrifice, and tragedy. Engineered to be the perfect soldiers for the Republic, they were bred for obedience, yet their humanity and individuality shone through in countless moments of bravery and camaraderie. When Order 66 was enacted, turning these loyal soldiers into unwilling executioners of the Jedi, the galaxy witnessed one of its darkest moments. But not all clones blindly followed the order. Some, like Fives, questioned the control that had been imposed upon them. Were there more like him? How many clones quietly resisted, and could their defiance have altered the course of history? Fives' discovery of the inhibitor chip buried deep within each clone's brain was a watershed moment. The chip, designed to override free will, ensured absolute obedience to Order 66. Fives' fight to expose this truth demonstrated the incredible resilience of his individuality. Though he ultimately fell, his actions sowed seeds of doubt among the clones and illuminated the sinister mechanism that Palpatine had used to manipulate them. But was Fives truly alone in his rebellion? Or did his defiance inspire others to question their purpose? Other whispers of clone resistance suggest that Fives' story was not an isolated case. Throughout the galaxy, clones who had formed strong bonds with their Jedi generals struggled against the programming of the inhibitor chips. Captain Rex, who served under Anakin Skywalker and later Ahsoka Tano, is one of the most notable examples. Rex's relationship with Ahsoka transcended the hierarchical dynamic of commander and subordinate. When Order 66 was initiated, Rex's connection to Ahsoka allowed him to resist the programming just long enough to warn her, a moment of defiance that saved her life. His subsequent removal of the chip represents a triumph of free will over engineered obedience. Rex's survival and resistance raise a question. How many other clones might have resisted in small, unseen ways? While not all clones were able to break free of the inhibitor chips, subtle acts of defiance, hesitation, missed shots, or even deliberate sabotage could have occurred across the galaxy. The bonds forged between Jedi and clones during the Clone Wars were often deeply personal, and for some, those connections may have been powerful enough to create cracks in the programming. Consider the case of Commander Wolffe, who, alongside clones like Gregor, eventually removed his inhibitor chip and joined Rex in exile. While Wolffe initially succumbed to Order 66, his later actions suggest a lingering disquiet about the events that transpired. What caused him to question the programming he once followed without hesitation? Could it have been the weight of guilt, or perhaps memories of his service alongside the Jedi that led him to reject the chip's control? The possibility of organized clone uprisings adds another layer to this story. While the inhibitor chips were designed to suppress individuality, the clones' shared camaraderie and collective experiences may have sparked pockets of resistance. On Kamino, where the clones were bred and trained, dissent reportedly simmered among certain battalions who recognized the duplicity of the Empire. These pockets of resistance were often swiftly crushed, but their existence speaks to the enduring spirit of the clones. How many such rebellions were snuffed out before they could gather momentum? One of the most haunting aspects of clone resistance is the moral and emotional conflict it represents. The clones were not droids, they were living beings with thoughts, feelings, and relationships. Many of them revered their Jedi generals and saw them as more than commanders. They were friends, mentors, and even family. The sudden betrayal demanded by Order 66 created a rift in the clones' psyche, forcing them to reconcile their loyalty to their Jedi with the unyielding commands of their programming. For those who resisted, even partially, the weight of that conflict must have been immense. Palpatine's manipulation of the clones extended beyond the chips. He relied on their loyalty and the bonds they had formed with the Republic to ensure their compliance. By framing the Jedi as traitors, he leveraged the clones' sense of duty against them, twisting their purpose into something unrecognizable. But this manipulation was not flawless. Some clones, particularly those who had been exposed to the corruption and moral ambiguity of the war, began to see through the facade. Could the disillusionment of these clones have created cracks in the Empire's control, paving the way for acts of rebellion? The legacy of the clones who resisted lives on in the galaxy's history. Their stories, though often overshadowed by the greater conflict between the Empire and the Rebellion, are reminders of the power of free will. Clones like Fives, Rex, and Wolf demonstrated that even in the face of overwhelming control, the spark of individuality could not be extinguished. Their actions, however small, represented acts of defiance against a regime that sought to strip them of their humanity. Yet the question remains: how many clones secretly resisted, and could their defiance have altered the course of galactic history? If a larger network of resistance had formed among the clones, could the Empire's rise have been slowed or even prevented? Or was the weight of Palpatine's manipulation too great for any coordinated effort to take shape? These unanswered questions linger like echoes of the war, a testament to the clones' struggle for agency in a galaxy that saw them as tools. The Force Dyad explained. Is the Force Dyad a natural phenomenon, or was it manipulated into existence by Sith alchemy? The Force Dyad, a phenomenon that connects two individuals across space and time with a bond so profound that they become one in the Force, is among the rarest and most enigmatic occurrences in the galaxy. The revelation of the dyad shared by Rey and Kylo Ren shook the foundations of what was understood about the Force. But was their connection a natural result of the Force's will, seeking balance as it always does? Or was it the product of deliberate manipulation, perhaps by the ancient and secretive practices of Sith alchemy? The bond exhibited by Rey and Kylo Ren transcended the known limits of Force abilities. Their connection allowed them to share thoughts, emotions, and even physical objects across vast distances, defying every known law of the galaxy. This kind of synchronization, unprecedented in its scope, led many to question its origin. Could the Force itself have orchestrated this dyad, seeking to unite light and dark in a bid to restore balance? Or were darker forces at work, threading these lives together to serve their own ends? To understand the nature of the dyad, one must first consider the Force itself. The Force, in its infinite complexity, operates on a scale far beyond the comprehension of even the most learned Jedi or Sith. It is both sentient and reactive, weaving the destinies of individuals to maintain equilibrium. The concept of balance is central to the Force, and history is rife with examples of its corrective actions. The rise of Anakin Skywalker to counter the growing darkness, or the emergence of Rey at a time when the light seemed extinguished. Could the dyad, then, be an extension of this natural balance, a phenomenon born of the Force's need to unite opposing energies? Yet the existence of the dyad raises questions that the natural explanation struggles to answer. The Sith, with their relentless pursuit of power, have long delved into the deepest and most forbidden aspects of the Force. Sith alchemy, a dark art that manipulates life and death itself, has been used to create monstrosities, alter the nature of the Force, and bind spirits to physical forms. Palpatine, the last great Dark Lord of the Sith, was no stranger to these practices. His resurrection on Exegol, through the arcane rituals of the Sith Eternal, demonstrates the extent to which the Sith would go to defy the Force's will. Did Palpatine, or his predecessors, engineer the dyad as a weapon, binding Rey and Kylo Ren to one another in an attempt to create a power strong enough to reshape the galaxy? The evidence of Sith manipulation lies in the unnatural aspects of the dyad. Palpatine himself seemed to know of its existence, describing it as a power like life itself. When Rey and Kylo Ren faced him, their combined strength rejuvenated the Emperor, a feat that suggests the dyad's energy could be harvested. How did Palpatine know of this bond, unless he had foreseen or perhaps even influenced its formation? Sith alchemy has been used before to bind souls and create powerful connections. Could the ancient Sith, in their endless quest to dominate the Force, have laid the groundwork for such a bond, waiting for the right individuals to activate it? If the dyad was indeed manipulated into existence, why Rey and Kylo Ren? Their lives, seemingly worlds apart, were shaped by remarkable parallels. Kylo Ren, born Ben Solo, was the heir to both the Skywalker legacy and the teachings of the dark side, a figure torn between light and darkness. Rey, a scavenger from Jakku, emerged as a beacon of light despite her mysterious origins and connection to Palpatine. Their bond seemed preordained, as though their paths were always meant to intertwine. Could the Sith have orchestrated their respective rises, shaping events to bring them together as part of a grand design? However, there are elements of the dyad that suggest a more organic origin. The bond between Rey and Kylo Ren was deeply personal, rooted in shared experiences and mutual understanding. Their connection evolved, not through coercion, but through moments of vulnerability and conflict. From their first encounter on Starkiller Base to their final battle on Exegol, their relationship was marked by a complexity that transcended manipulation. This intimacy suggests that the dyad, while extraordinary, may have been a natural phenomenon, a reflection of the Force's ability to connect beings who share a profound destiny. The ancient Jedi texts, kept by Luke Skywalker on Act 2, hint at the possibility of dyads existing in the past. One passage speaks of a binding of two that transcends time and space, a union so powerful it could reshape the Force itself. If such a phenomenon had occurred before, why were its secrets buried? Perhaps the Jedi, wary of such power and its potential for abuse, sought to suppress knowledge of it. Or perhaps the Sith, always seeking to control the Force, erased records of dyads to claim the phenomenon for their own dark purposes. The Force dyad also raises questions about the broader balance of the galaxy. Rey and Kylo Ren, as two halves of this union, represented the light and dark sides of the Force in perfect harmony. Their bond was not one of domination but of equality, a dynamic that challenged the binary thinking of the Jedi and Sith. Could the dyad be a glimpse of what the Force truly seeks, not victory for one side over the other, but coexistence and unity? If so, does this suggest that the Sith's attempt to manipulate the dyad was doomed from the start? An effort to control a power that was inherently opposed to their philosophy of dominance? Palpatine's defeat on Exegol, brought about through the combined strength of the dyad, underscores the power of this connection. Yet, even in their victory, questions linger. If the dyad is a natural phenomenon, why has it appeared so rarely? And if it was manipulated into existence, what does that say about the Force's ability to resist such interference? Could future dyads emerge, shaped by the same forces that created Rey and Kylo Ren's bond? Or was their connection a singular event, never to be repeated? The Force dyad remains one of the most profound mysteries of the galaxy, a phenomenon that challenges the understanding of Jedi and Sith alike. Whether born of the Force's will or the dark machinations of Sith alchemy, Its existence reveals the boundless potential of the Force to shape and reshape the galaxy. How many other dyads might have existed, lost to time and history? And what does the Force have in store for those who dare to explore its deepest mysteries? These questions linger, unanswered, inviting us to peer into the unknown and wonder at the infinite possibilities of the Force.